the starship Aurelia sliced through the blackness of space, its sleek hull gleaming under the distant light of a dying sun. Inside, the air hummed with anticipation as the crew of Zolarians prepared for their most ambitious mission yet, to study the strange, teeming biosphere of Earth, a planet whose inhabitants were renowned across the galaxy for their unpredictable and often lethal interactions with one another. Commander Reinar, a tall figure with elongated limbs and shimmering azure skin, stood at the helm. His multifaceted eyes scanned the navigational displays, brimming with data about Earth's atmospheric conditions. Beside him, Dr. Lyra, the ship's chief biologist, flicked through holographic images of the planet's flora and fauna. Each image seemed more bizarre than the last, but it was the predatory behaviors of Earth's species that truly captivated her. "Commander," she said, her voice a melodious blend of curiosity and caution. "The preliminary data suggests an astonishingly complex food chain. The way organisms rely on one another for survival is both fascinating and alarming." Reinar nodded, his interest piqued. "I have read the reports from previous expeditions. The food chain on Earth is notorious for its violence. Herbivores can become predators, and even plants can trap and consume unsuspecting creatures. It challenges everything we know about ecosystems." "Precisely," Lyra replied, her holographic display shifting to show images of carnivorous plants, insects with deadly stingers, and animals that could hunt in packs. "We must prepare for what we might encounter. We may not be the apex species on this planet." As the Aurelia descended through the atmosphere, the crew was captivated by the sight of blue oceans and green continents, a vibrant world teeming with life. Reinar engaged the cloaking mechanisms, ensuring their presence remained undetected as they landed in a secluded area surrounded by towering trees. The ship's hatch hissed open, and a rush of warm, oxygen-rich air enveloped them. The crew emerged into a dense forest, the sounds of chirping insects and rustling leaves filling the air. They were in a biolite grove, lit by the soft glow of the flora around them. "Remember, we're here to observe," Reinar reminded them as they set up their equipment. "No direct interference. We must gather data without altering their natural behaviors." As the crew dispersed, Lyra moved deeper into the grove, her sensors scanning for life signs. A flicker of movement caught her eye. A small, furry creature darted through the underbrush, its eyes wide with fear. It was a rabbit, she noted, harmless and vulnerable. But as she watched, her sensors detected a larger creature approaching. The air around her thickened with tension. With a jolt, the predator emerged, a sleek, muscular figure with sharp claws and gleaming teeth. The rabbit froze, its instincts screaming danger. Lyra's heart raced as she observed the predator's calculated movements, a deadly elegance in its hunt. Suddenly, the predator lunged, claws outstretched. The rabbit made a desperate dash, but it was no match for the ferocity of its pursuer. A brutal struggle ensued, the rabbit's desperate attempts to escape met with ruthless precision. Lyra's sensors recorded the event, but a pang of sympathy welled within her. She had seen countless ecosystems before, but the raw brutality of this one struck her differently. "Commander," she whispered into her communicator, her voice shaking slightly. "You need to see this. The violence is intense." Reinar's voice crackled back. "We're all aware of the food chain's brutality, Dr. Lyra, but witnessing it firsthand will provide invaluable data." Lyra clenched her jaw, trying to shake off the uncomfortable feelings bubbling within her. "I understand, but it feels different. This isn't just data, it's life and death. Every ecosystem has its harsh realities. Focus on the observations," Reinar urged. Reluctantly, Lyra returned her attention to the scene unfolding before her. The predator was relentless, its instincts honed by millions of years of evolution. Within moments, the rabbit lay still, the predator standing victorious over its prey, an embodiment of nature's cruel logic. As Lyra gathered her thoughts, she spotted something that made her breath hitch. High above, in the branches of the trees, a large bird of prey was observing the scene below, its keen eyes locked onto the predator. The cycle continued, she realized. Life begets death, and death begets life, a relentless cycle that seemed both beautiful and horrific. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the grove. Lyra's sensors lit up with alarms, warning of seismic activity. The ground shook violently, and she stumbled, clutching a tree for support. The predator looked up, its instincts kicking in as it abandoned its meal and sprinted into the underbrush. The rabbit lay motionless, a victim of both predator and nature. "Lyra, report," Reinar's voice sliced through the chaos. "We have seismic activity. Before she could finish, the ground erupted beneath her, sending her tumbling into a hidden cavern. Darkness enveloped her as she fell, the world above disappearing in a cloud of dust and debris. When she finally landed, disoriented and aching, she lay still, listening for sounds of life. The faint echo of the world above faded away, leaving her in eerie silence. She took a moment to gather her thoughts, activating her flashlight to light the cavern walls. Strange formations rose around her, glimmering with a faint, violet glow. The air was damp, and the smell of earth filled her nostrils. Her sensors indicated that she was not alone. Life forms scuttled in the shadows, their movements barely perceptible. "Reinar," she shouted, her voice echoing in the darkness. "Can anyone hear me?" Static crackled through her communicator, but no response came. Panic began to claw at her chest as she realized the gravity of her situation. Alone in the dark, with only the sounds of unseen creatures around her, she was far from the safety of her crew. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to remain calm. Using her flashlight, she moved cautiously, scanning for any signs of a way out. As she ventured deeper into the cavern, she noticed peculiar markings on the walls, hieroglyphs that hinted at a story, perhaps one of survival or dominance. Then, a soft rustling drew her attention. A pair of glowing eyes watched her from the shadows, and she froze, heart racing. The creature emerged, a small, furry being with large, curious eyes and delicate features. It looked somewhat like the rabbit she had seen earlier, but bore markings that indicated it was part of a different cycle of survival. Lyra knelt down, her instincts as a biologist taking over. "Hey there, little one. I mean you no harm." The creature sniffed the air, its nose twitching. It edged closer, clearly cautious but curious. Lyra reached into her pack, pulling out a small piece of food, a protein bar designed for long expeditions. She offered it gently, and after a moment, the creature snatched it and retreated a few steps, chewing thoughtfully. "Smart little thing," Lyra murmured, captivated by the unexpected encounter. As the creature continued to eat, she wondered what other wonders lay hidden within this world. If this small being could survive in the depths of Earth's deadly food chain, what other secrets did the planet hold? With renewed determination, Lyra began to document her surroundings, noting the hieroglyphs and the creature's behavior. Somewhere above, her crew would be searching for her, and she knew she needed to find a way back. But first, she was drawn deeper into the mysteries of this vibrant, deadly world, a world that was, in its own way, as wondrous as it was horrifying. The first chapter of her journey had begun, and she was prepared to uncover the secrets of Earth's deadly food chain, no matter the cost. Lyra took a deep breath, focusing on her surroundings as the small creature cautiously approached her. Its large eyes reflected the glow of her flashlight, a spark of curiosity mixed with the innate wariness that every creature on Earth seemed to embody. She felt a strange kinship with it, both of them navigating a world filled with unknowns, driven by instinct and curiosity. As the creature finished the last of the protein bar, it tilted its head, examining Lyra with an expression that seemed to convey both wonder and caution. She reached out a hand slowly, palm up, hoping to gain its trust. "I won't hurt you," she whispered, her voice soft and soothing. It took a hesitant step forward, sniffing her outstretched hand. Lyra held her breath, her heart pounding with excitement. After what felt like an eternity, the creature nudged her fingers with its nose, its warm breath a gentle reminder of the fragility of life in this unpredictable world. Suddenly, the ground trembled again, a deeper rumble that sent shivers through the cavern walls. The small creature froze, its eyes widening in alarm. Lyra instinctively recoiled, the bond they had just formed now overshadowed by an unseen threat. "Stay close," she whispered, trying to comfort it as she scanned her surroundings for any signs of danger. The air was thick with tension, and she could sense that something was not right. The tremors intensified, sending small rocks tumbling from the ceiling. She aimed her flashlight towards the cavern's depths, light narrow passageways that twisted and turned like the veins of a living organism. "We need to find a way out," she murmured, gripping her equipment tightly. The creature, still hovering nearby, seemed to sense her urgency. It darted ahead, looking back to ensure she was following. Instinctively, Lyra knew that it was leading her somewhere safe, perhaps to the exit of this underground labyrinth. Trusting her newfound companion, she hurried after it, navigating the uneven ground with caution. The passageway opened into a larger chamber, its ceiling high and adorned with light fungi that cast a ghostly light across the rocky surfaces. The sight took her breath away. It was as if she had stepped into another world, untouched by the violence that thrived above. Lyra's sensors flickered to life, gathering data about the organisms around her. "Incredible," she whispered, mesmerized by the diversity of life. "This ecosystem is thriving despite the chaos above." She began taking samples of the fungi, noting their unique properties. Perhaps they could provide insight into the resilience of life on Earth, an adaptation to the deadly food chain that surrounded them. As she worked, the small creature observed her closely, its eyes gleaming with curiosity. But the moment was short-lived. The ground shook again, this time more violently, sending a cascade of dust and debris from the chamber's ceiling. The fungi trembled in response, their light flickering ominously. Lyra's heart raced. "We have to keep moving," she urged, her voice tinged with urgency. She grabbed her equipment and followed the creature deeper into the chamber. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the cavern, and the ground beneath her feet buckled. Lyra stumbled, barely regaining her balance as a fissure opened in the ground, revealing a yawning abyss. A wave of fear coursed through her as she realized how precarious her situation had become. "Come on," she shouted to the creature, who hesitated at the edge of the chasm. It seemed torn between its instinct to flee and the bond they had formed. "We can't stay here." With a small cry, the creature finally leapt across the fissure, landing safely on the other side. Lyra followed, adrenaline fueling her leap as she cleared the gap. They landed safely, but the cavern continued to tremble as if it were alive and angry. As they pushed deeper into the cavern, the sounds of the outside world faded away, replaced by an eerie silence punctuated by the occasional drip of water and the distant echoes of unseen creatures. The light fungi provided the only light, creating an otherworldly atmosphere that was both enchanting and foreboding. Lyra's thoughts raced. She had to find a way back to her crew, and fast. But every moment spent in the cavern was a gamble, the ground beneath her shifting unpredictably. She glanced at her sensors, desperate for any signs of movement beyond the cave. "Come on, let's keep moving," she urged the creature, which had taken to following her closely. It seemed to trust her now, keeping pace as they ventured into the unknown. As they navigated through a series of narrow tunnels, Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Shadows danced just beyond her line of sight, and the air grew heavier, charged with a tension that made her skin crawl. She stopped, holding her breath, straining to hear anything out of the ordinary. Suddenly, a low growl resonated through the tunnel, echoing off the walls. Lyra's heart dropped, adrenaline surging through her veins. The creature beside her flattened its ears, instinctively sensing the danger. "We need to hide," she whispered urgently. With no time to think, she darted into a nearby alcove, pulling the creature with her. They pressed themselves against the cold, damp rock, hearts pounding in unison as the growl grew louder, closer. Through a narrow opening, she caught a glimpse of movement, a large, sinewy figure stalking through the tunnels, its eyes glowing like embers in the darkness. It was a predator, larger and more formidable than the one she had witnessed earlier. This creature was a nightmare, a hunter born from the depths of Earth's violent ecosystem. Holding her breath, Lyra watched as it prowled past her hiding spot, its muscles rippling beneath its mottled skin. It paused, sniffing the air, and for a moment she thought it would discover them. But then, as if sensing nothing amiss, it continued onward, disappearing into the shadows. Lyra let out a shaky breath, her body trembling with adrenaline. "That was too close," she murmured, glancing down at her companion, who was still pressed against her leg. "We need to keep moving." The creature looked up at her, its eyes wide and filled with trust. "We'll make it out together," she assured it, steeling herself for what lay ahead. They slipped back into the tunnel, moving with caution. The tremors continued, but the growls had faded, leaving a heavy silence in their wake. As they advanced, Lyra couldn't shake the image of the predator from her mind. What other dangers lurked in the depths of this planet? Finally, the tunnel opened into another chamber, and Lyra's heart soared at the sight of a glowing exit. "There!" she exclaimed, pointing towards the shimmering light. "We're almost there." But as they rushed forward, a deep rumble reverberated through the cavern, shaking the ground once more. The exit flickered ominously, and Lyra felt a wave of panic rise within her. "No, no, no!" she gasped, pushing herself to run faster. They reached the exit, and she peered out into the world beyond. What she saw took her breath away, a breathtaking vista of lush greenery and cascading waterfalls, lit by a golden sun. But beneath its beauty lay chaos. The landscape was scarred by deep fissures and evidence of seismic instability. The ground itself seemed to be in turmoil, mirroring the violence of the life forms that inhabited it. Just as she prepared to step out, the ground beneath her shifted violently, and the exit began to close. "Hold on," she shouted to the creature, grabbing it tightly as they both stumbled forward. With a desperate leap, they burst out of the cavern just as it collapsed behind them, the sound echoing like a thunderclap through the forest. They landed in a patch of soft moss, the warmth of the sun enveloping them. Lyra lay there for a moment, gasping for breath, her heart racing with the thrill of survival. The creature, still pressed against her, looked up at her with a mix of concern and curiosity. "We did it," she said, her voice shaky but filled with relief. "We made it out." But as she regained her composure and took in her surroundings, a new fear gripped her. They were still deep within the forest, surrounded by towering trees that loomed like giants, and the air buzzed with the sounds of a vibrant ecosystem. She knew she had to find her crew, but first they had to figure out where they were. "Let's see what we can find," she said, pushing herself to her feet. The small creature followed closely, its demeanor shifting from cautious to curious as it explored the lush environment. Lyra took a moment to recalibrate her sensors and access her communicator. "Reinar, can you hear me?" she called out, hoping against hope for a response. Static crackled, but there was no answer. "Of course, you're not going to respond," she muttered, frustration creeping in. "I have to find them." With a sense of purpose, she began to move through the underbrush, carefully stepping over roots and rocks. The forest was alive with movement, brightly colored insects flitted about, and the distant calls of birds echoed in the canopy above. Each sound was a reminder of the intricate web of life that thrived here, a world at once beautiful and brutal. The creature remained by her side, its presence a small comfort amidst the uncertainty. They ventured deeper into the forest, moving carefully and silently, listening for any signs of her crew. As Lyra trekked deeper into the forest, the rich, earthy scents enveloped her, mingling with the sweetness of flowering plants. The vibrant colors around her painted a vivid picture, but beneath the beauty lay an underlying tension that kept her senses on high alert. Every rustle in the underbrush, every flicker of movement, made her pulse race. Her companion, the small creature, scampered ahead, occasionally glancing back as if encouraging her to keep up. "Slow down," she murmured, though she couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder watching it navigate the terrain with ease. Its innate instincts were finely tuned to this environment, a testament to the resilience of life on Earth. After several minutes of searching, Lyra spotted a clearing up ahead, bathed in dappled sunlight. Cautiously, she stepped into the open space, her heart pounding with anticipation. Would she find her crew here? The clearing was surrounded by towering trees, their trunks thick and ancient. In the center stood a massive stone structure, partially overgrown with vines and moss. It resembled a temple of sorts, though its purpose was lost to time. The architecture was unlike anything she had ever seen, its surfaces engraved with intricate symbols and markings that hinted at a forgotten civilization. "What is this place?" she whispered to herself, her curiosity igniting. She approached the structure, drawn to its grandeur. The carvings on the stone seemed to tell a story, a narrative of survival, struggle, and the harmony between different life forms. Her sensors flickered to life, attempting to analyze the structure. "Let's see what secrets you hold," she muttered, moving closer to the wall. The creature hesitated at the edge of the clearing, its instincts wary of the unfamiliar surroundings. "It's okay," Lyra coaxed, sensing its apprehension. "Stay close. We'll be safe here." As she examined the carvings, she was struck by the depiction of various creatures, some resembling the predators she had encountered, while others looked like herbivores or even insects. Each figure was engaged in dynamic poses, frozen in moments of struggle or coexistence. "What a rich tapestry of life," she mused, her fingers tracing the patterns. These beings had a profound understanding of their environment. Suddenly, a soft whimper broke the silence. Lyra turned to see the small creature cowering near the edge of the clearing, its large eyes wide with fear. "What is it?" she asked, moving toward it. Before she could reach it, a low growl reverberated through the clearing, sending a chill down her spine. Lyra's heart raced as she looked around, scanning for the source of the sound. There, emerging from the shadows, was the large predator she had seen in the tunnels, the same sinewy figure, its eyes gleaming with primal hunger. "No!" she gasped, instinctively stepping in front of the small creature. It cowered behind her, seeking refuge. "You don't want to do this," she shouted, desperately trying to deter the beast. The predator advanced slowly, its movements calculated, muscles rippling beneath its mottled skin. Lyra knew she had to act quickly. She fumbled with her equipment, hoping to find something to defend herself. "Stay back," she warned, brandishing her flashlight like a weapon, though her heart raced with fear. The predator paused, seemingly assessing her threat level, its growl deepening. In that moment of standoff, Lyra noticed something peculiar. The carvings on the temple walls depicted similar predators alongside smaller creatures, the dynamics of their interactions illustrated with striking detail. It seemed that this place held a history of balance, a story of coexistence, albeit one filled with conflict. "Maybe there's a way to communicate," she thought, her mind racing. "If only I could find a way to show it, I mean no harm." The predator took another step forward, and instinctively, Lyra dropped to one knee, holding out her hands in a gesture of peace. "I'm not your enemy," she said softly, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. "I don't want to fight." The predator's growl faded into a low rumble, its eyes narrowing as it studied her. The tension in the air thickened, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. Would it attack, or would it recognize her intent? Suddenly, the creature behind her let out a soft chirp, and the predator's attention snapped to it. In a flash, Lyra seized the opportunity. "No, don't!" she shouted, moving to shield the small creature. But to her surprise, the predator halted, its focus shifting between Lyra and her companion. A moment of hesitation passed before it lowered its head, a sign of curiosity rather than aggression. Lyra's heart raced with hope. Maybe it understands, she thought, feeling the weight of the moment. Perhaps it sees the bond between us. Slowly, she reached out her hand toward the predator, palm up, showing that she meant no harm. The predator sniffed the air, its nostrils flaring as it assessed her scent. Lyra held her breath, praying that this moment of connection would hold. As if sensing her fear, the small creature edged closer to the predator, its natural curiosity taking over. Lyra couldn't believe her eyes. It seemed to be initiating its own form of communication. The predator tilted its head, watching the small creature with interest. "What are you doing?" Lyra whispered, torn between awe and fear. She knew the dangers of underestimating the wild instincts of both the predator and her companion. To her astonishment, the predator relaxed its posture, the growl softening to a low, vibrating hum. The creature and the predator were now engaged in an intricate dance of curiosity, an unspoken dialogue unfolding before her eyes. "Is this really happening?" Lyra murmured, disbelief flooding her senses. "Are they connecting?" The predator lowered its head further, inviting the small creature to approach. It took a tentative step forward, nuzzling the predator's muzzle with a gentle touch. The predator responded with a soft, rumbling sound that reverberated through the air, a note of acceptance. Lyra's heart swelled with hope. This was a moment of profound significance and understanding blossoming between two species that, by nature, should be enemies. Maybe there's more to this world than mere survival, she thought, the realization dawning upon her. As they observed the unexpected alliance unfold, Lyra felt a warmth spreading through her chest, a glimmer of optimism in the chaos that had engulfed her journey. Perhaps there was a way to navigate this world without violence, to forge connections where there once had been none. The predator, now less tense, seemed to regard Lyra with a newfound interest. It stepped back slightly, allowing the small creature to explore further. In that moment, the predator became something more than a symbol of fear. It transformed into a guardian of the forest, an intricate part of a delicate balance. Suddenly, a sound disrupted their fragile harmony. A sharp crack echoed through the trees, and Lyra instinctively turned, her heart racing again. The ground beneath them trembled, and the once vibrant clearing felt as though it was under siege. "Not again," she shouted, realizing they needed to move. The predator looked to her, and for the first time, she felt a shared understanding and acknowledgement that they were all part of the same struggle for survival. "Let's go," she urged, gesturing toward the forest edge. The predator hesitated for a heartbeat, but then it turned, leading the way through the underbrush with its graceful, powerful strides. Lyra and the small creature followed closely behind, racing through the foliage as the ground shook violently. The trees swayed above them, branches snapping and crashing down like thunderclaps. They dodged fallen limbs and leapt over exposed roots, the predator guiding them as if it understood the urgency of the situation. "Where are we going?" she shouted, trying to keep up with its swift movements. The forest felt alive, a chaotic symphony of sound and motion. As they pushed deeper into the woods, Lyra could see sunlight breaking through the canopy ahead. Hope surged within her, urging her to push harder. The predator continued to lead them, its keen senses navigating the treacherous terrain with ease. When they burst into a sunlit glade, Lyra gasped at the sight. The clearing was filled with vibrant flowers and buzzing insects, a stark contrast to the chaos they had just escaped. Yet, she had little time to appreciate the beauty behind them. The ground shook again, and she could hear the sounds of collapsing trees. "Go! We have to keep moving!" she yelled, urgency driving her words. The predator turned, its eyes reflecting an understanding as it bounded forward, leading them toward a dense thicket of underbrush. They entered the thicket, the branches closing around them like a protective barrier. The sounds of destruction faded slightly, replaced by the rustle of leaves and the soft whispers of the forest. Lyra paused for a moment to catch her breath, glancing at her companion, who was still clinging to her side. "We made it," she whispered, though her heart still raced with adrenaline. The predator stood watch, its posture relaxed but alert, as if it were aware that the danger had not yet passed. "What now?" she pondered aloud, feeling the weight of uncertainty settle over her. The forest was vast, and the path ahead remained unclear. She had lost contact with her crew, and her only allies were an enigmatic predator and a small creature whose nature was still a mystery. The thicket enveloped them in a cocoon of green, the sunlight filtering through the leaves to create a mosaic of light and shadow on the forest floor. Lyra took a moment to gather her thoughts, the thrill of survival mixing with the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her. The predator stood nearby, its gaze scanning the area for threats, while the small creature nestled against her leg, its warm presence a comfort amid the chaos. "We can't stay here for long," Lyra said, her voice low. We need to find a safe place and figure out our next move." The predator turned its head slightly, as if acknowledging her words, before moving a few paces deeper into the thicket. Lyra took a deep breath and followed, sensing that it was leading her somewhere more secure. The small creature darted ahead, its playful energy infectious, and she couldn't help but smile at its resilience. After a few minutes of navigating through the dense underbrush, they emerged into another clearing. This one was larger and surrounded by tall trees that seemed to form a natural amphitheater. At the center, a small pool shimmered with crystal-clear water, reflecting the sky above. The air was thick with the scents of blooming flowers, and Lyra could hear the soft murmur of a nearby stream. "This is beautiful," she whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. The predator approached the edge of the pool, lowering its head to drink. The small creature joined it, dipping its nose into the water, splashing playfully. As Lyra watched, a wave of exhaustion washed over her. The adrenaline that had propelled her through the forest began to fade, leaving her with a hollow feeling. She sat down on the cool grass, grateful for the chance to catch her breath. "Okay, think," she said to herself. "I need to find my crew and get back to the Orlia." But how? She pulled out her communicator, but the screen still showed static, a reminder of her isolation. "I have to rely on what I can find here," she thought, looking around at the thriving ecosystem. Suddenly, the predator lifted its head, alert once more. Lyra's heart raced as she followed its gaze. From the shadows of the trees, a group of creatures emerged, several more of the same species as the predator, but each one slightly different, varying in size and coloration. They moved with a fluid grace, their eyes sharp and intelligent. One, larger than the rest, stepped forward, its presence commanding respect. The other predators fanned out behind it, forming a semicircle around the pool. Lyra held her breath as the larger predator approached her, its gaze piercing. It regarded her with the same mixture of caution and curiosity that she had seen in the smaller predator earlier. "I mean no harm," she said softly, raising her hands in a non-threatening gesture. The larger predator paused, its nostrils flaring as it took in her scent. After a tense moment, it lowered its head, a gesture that seemed to convey both dominance and acceptance. The other predators watched intently, their postures relaxed but vigilant. "What are you?" Lyra asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Are you the leader?" The creature's eyes shimmered with understanding, as if it comprehended her words. Then, to her surprise, it turned and beckoned her with a slight motion of its head, leading her toward the edge of the clearing. Lyra exchanged glances with her small companion, who seemed equally intrigued. "Should we follow?" she asked. "It might be dangerous." But the small creature nuzzled against her leg, encouraging her to take the risk. "All right, let's see where this leads," she said, rising to her feet. As they followed the larger predator, the other creatures flanked them, creating an unspoken barrier of protection. They moved through the trees, weaving past thick trunks and vibrant foliage, until they reached a hidden enclave nestled within a grove of ancient trees. The enclave opened up to reveal a gathering of creatures. Lyra's eyes widened in amazement as she took in the sight. In this hidden sanctuary, animals of various sizes and species coexisted: predators, herbivores, and small mammals, all united in a strange council. "What is this place?" she breathed, her heart racing. It was unlike anything she had ever encountered. The atmosphere was charged with energy, an unspoken understanding binding them all together. The larger predator stepped forward, drawing the attention of the gathered creatures. They quieted, their eyes fixed on Lyra and her companion. It was as if she had stumbled upon a gathering of the Forest Council, a coalition of life striving for balance in the face of an ever-volatile environment. "Greetings, beings of the forest," Lyra spoke, her voice steady despite the overwhelming situation. "I am Lyra, a visitor from another world. I come in peace and seek to understand this place." The creatures observed her intently, their expressions varying from curiosity to caution. She could sense the weight of their scrutiny, their instincts keenly aware of her presence. "I know you may see me as a threat," she continued, but I wish to learn, to understand how you survive in this harsh world." The larger predator shifted, and to her astonishment, it let out a series of low, resonant sounds. The other creatures responded with soft vocalizations, creating a chorus that reverberated through the grove. Lyra felt an invisible thread of connection binding them all together, an ancient language woven into the very fabric of their beings. As the sound subsided, a smaller creature stepped forward, a diminutive, feathered being with bright plumage. It chirped in a rapid, melodic tone, gesturing animatedly as it spoke. Lyra could only guess at the content of its message, but the sincerity in its eyes was unmistakable. Is that a form of communication? She wondered, fascinated by the exchange. The larger predator remained at the forefront, its presence commanding the attention of the assembly. Suddenly, a memory flashed through her mind, a data packet she had read about Earth's wildlife before her journey. Some animals can communicate through vocalizations and body language, she recalled. Perhaps they're discussing me, trying to determine my intentions. As the feathered creature finished its song, the larger predator turned its gaze back to Lyra. I can't understand you, but I can try to show you my intentions, she said, determination coursing through her. I want to help. The predator stepped closer, its eyes searching hers. Lyra held her ground, refusing to look away. In that moment, she felt a surge of energy, a spark of understanding passing between them. It was a connection that transcended language, rooted in the shared struggle for survival. The larger predator lowered its head, a sign of acceptance, and Lyra felt a wave of relief wash over her. The creatures around her shifted, forming a circle that seemed to embrace her as one of their own. She could see the small creature at her side, its eyes shining with trust and hope. Thank you for allowing me to join you, she said, her voice steady as she spoke to the gathering. I wish to learn from you, to understand how you maintain harmony in a world filled with danger. The feathered creature chirped again, this time more slowly, as if attempting to convey a message. The larger predator remained at the forefront, its eyes locked on Lyra, as if it were the guardian of this sacred place. As the council began to engage in a chorus of sounds, Lyra closed her eyes, focusing on the rhythm of their communication. She felt the energy pulsing around her, the unspoken bond of life weaving through the air. It was a reminder that every creature had its role to play, its part in the grand tapestry of existence. For a fleeting moment, she envisioned a world where cooperation reigned over conflict, where the predators and prey shared their strengths, rather than perpetuating cycles of violence. Perhaps Earth was not just a battleground. Perhaps it was a canvas of possibility, a lesson waiting to be learned. Opening her eyes, Lyra straightened her posture, emboldened by the vision that had taken root in her mind. If you'll have me, I wish to assist you, she declared, determination burning within her. I want to understand how I can help this ecosystem thrive. The feathered creature fluttered its wings, emitting a series of cheerful chirps. The other animals reacted, creating a symphony of sounds that echoed through the grove. The larger predator let out a low rumble, and she felt its approval wash over her like a warm breeze. With a newfound sense of purpose, Lyra began to explore the enclave. The Council of Beasts moved gracefully around her, demonstrating their daily rituals and interactions. She marveled at the intricate relationships, how the herbivores grazed on the abundant foliage, while the predators maintained a watchful eye, creating a balance that sustained the community. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden hue across the clearing, Lyra observed a particularly fascinating interaction. A group of smaller creatures, resembling agile squirrels, scurried about, gathering nuts and seeds. The predators stood nearby, their expressions alert but not hostile. It was a cooperative effort, with each creature fulfilling its role in the ecosystem. What if I could learn from this, she thought, inspiration igniting within her. If I could understand their communication and the subtleties of their interactions, I could document this incredible balance for my crew. As the sun continued its descent, casting a warm golden light over the grove, Lyra felt a sense of peace wash over her. The cacophony of sounds around her, the rustle of leaves, the soft calls of the creatures, and the gentle gurgle of the stream created a harmonious backdrop that felt both alien and familiar. Her sketches took shape, each line capturing not just the physical attributes of the creatures, but also the essence of their interactions. With each stroke of her pen, she felt more connected to this world, more aware of the delicate threads that bound all life together. Every detail matters, she mused, observing how a young herbivore approached a predator without fear. It nibbled on some nearby grass, while the predator stood watch, its posture relaxed. There's a trust here, a bond formed over generations. The larger predator moved closer, its presence a constant reminder of the power and grace that defined this community. Lyra felt its eyes on her, watching with an intensity that made her heart race. "What do you think of my drawings?" she asked, her voice carrying softly in the evening air. To her surprise, the predator leaned down, nudging the sketches with its nose. She chuckled softly, recognizing its curiosity. "You want to see more? I can do that." She began sketching again, focusing on the intricate patterns of the feathers on the smaller creature that had previously spoken. As she worked, the other animals began to gather closer, intrigued by the activity. The feathered creature perched nearby, its head tilting as it observed her movements. Lyra felt a rush of warmth. This connection was deeper than she had anticipated. Suddenly, a loud crack reverberated through the trees, breaking the tranquility. The creatures froze, their senses alert. The larger predator lifted its head, growling softly, its body tense with instinct. Lyra's heart raced as she stood up, clutching her sketches protectively. "What was that?" she whispered, scanning the surrounding area. The once peaceful clearing felt charged with tension. The feathered creature took to the air, circling above, while the larger predator moved closer to Lyra, its presence a shield against whatever threat lurked nearby. The other animals scattered, seeking refuge behind trees or within the thicket. Then, out of the shadows, emerged a massive figure, an imposing beast that dwarfed the predator standing beside her. It was covered in thick fur, its muscles rippling as it approached with an air of dominance. The ground seemed to tremble beneath its weight. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. "What is that?" she gasped, fear coursing through her. The new arrival let out a deep, guttural sound, a challenge reverberating through the grove. The larger predator stepped forward, its growl echoing, a warning against the intruder. "Stay back," Lyra urged, sensing the imminent confrontation. She was struck by the gravity of the moment. The forest had shifted, and now survival hung in the balance. The imposing creature paused, its eyes locking onto Lyra and the larger predator. In a show of strength, it puffed up its chest, letting out a roar that echoed through the trees, drowning out the whispers of the wind. The smaller creatures around them trembled, their instincts kicking in as they sensed the impending danger. "This is not good," Lyra thought, her heart racing. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, the gathered council watching in rapt attention, waiting for the clash between the two powerful figures. The larger predator, undeterred, lowered its head, preparing to defend its territory. "This isn't just about survival, it's about protecting what's sacred," Lyra realized, her heart swelling with admiration for the creatures around her. With a sudden burst of movement, the two predators lunged at each other, their forms a blur of fur and muscle. Lyra gasped, stepping back instinctively, her eyes wide as they collided in a fierce display of strength. The ground shook beneath her feet as they grappled, each trying to assert dominance over the other. Time seemed to slow as she watched the spectacle unfold. The larger predator fought valiantly, its movements fluid and precise, but the intruder was a force of nature, pushing it back with sheer power. Lyra's heart raced. This was a battle for survival, a clash of instincts that echoed the very essence of life. "Come on, you can do this," she shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. "You're protecting your home." The other animals watched in silence, their eyes wide, each creature aware of the stakes involved. The struggle raged on, the sounds of growls and snarls filling the air as the two beasts continued their fierce contest. Lyra's heart ached for the larger predator, a symbol of resilience and strength. Suddenly, she noticed the feathered creature swooping low, darting in and out of the fray, making calls that sounded almost like an attempt to distract the intruder. It's trying to help, she realized, her heart swelling with admiration for the small creature's bravery. With a roar, the imposing beast turned its attention to the feathered creature, swatting at it with a powerful paw. Lyra gasped, her instincts screaming for her to intervene. But she knew she was powerless in this physical confrontation. Then, with a flash of determination, the larger predator found its footing, rallying against the intruder. It countered with a low growl, a powerful display of defiance that sent shivers down Lyra's spine. "This is it. You can turn this around," she shouted, her voice filled with encouragement. With renewed vigor, the larger predator launched itself at the intruder, aiming for a decisive blow. The clash was brutal, the air crackling with energy as the two beasts collided again, the force of their struggle sending tremors through the ground. As the battle raged on, Lyra felt a surge of emotions: fear, hope, and an overwhelming desire to protect this newfound home. "I have to do something," she thought, her mind racing. She scanned the area, looking for anything that might turn the tide. Her eyes landed on a fallen branch nearby, sturdy and long. With a burst of adrenaline, she dashed toward it, grabbing the branch and holding it aloft as she approached the fight. "Hey, over here," she yelled, hoping to distract the intruder. The imposing beast turned its gaze toward her, momentarily pausing in its aggression. The larger predator seized the opportunity, pushing forward with renewed strength, and Lyra took a step closer, brandishing the branch as a makeshift weapon. "Get away from them," she shouted, her voice fierce and unwavering. The branch felt heavy in her hands, but she was determined. This is their home. In that moment, the intruder hesitated, its eyes narrowing as it assessed this unexpected challenge. The larger predator lunged forward, and together they created a powerful force, two beings united against a common enemy. As the intruder faltered, Lyra felt a rush of exhilaration. "This is it. Keep pushing," she urged, raising the branch high as if it were a beacon of hope. The council of creatures watched, their breaths held in anticipation. With one final surge of energy, the larger predator leaped, and with a mighty roar, it pushed the intruder back, forcing it to retreat into the shadows from whence it came. The grove erupted into a chorus of triumphant sounds, the animals celebrating the victory as the intruder disappeared from sight. Lyra stood there, heart racing, breathless from the adrenaline. The larger predator turned to her, its eyes glimmering with gratitude. "We did it," she said, a smile breaking across her face. "You did it." The feathered creature fluttered down to perch on her shoulder, chirping excitedly, and Lyra couldn't help but laugh, feeling the weight of the moment lift. The council of beasts surrounded her, their energy palpable, a celebration of life and resilience in the face of danger. In that instant, she realized that she had forged an unbreakable bond with these creatures, a connection rooted in a shared struggle, a testament to the power of unity. "I'm with you," she said, looking at the larger predator. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." The grove thrummed with life, the evening light casting a warm glow as the animals settled around her, basking in the afterglow of victory. Lyra felt a sense of belonging that she had never experienced before, a deep understanding of her place within this intricate web of life. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of pink and orange, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. "I will learn from you," she promised, her voice steady. "Together, we can protect this place." With the council of beasts surrounding her, Lyra knew she was no longer just a visitor in this world. She had become a part of its story, a thread woven into the fabric of life that pulsed with the rhythm of nature itself. The night began to settle around them, the sounds of the forest shifting as the creatures prepared for the darkness. Lyra sat cross-legged by the shimmering pool, the feathered creature still perched on her shoulder, and watched as the stars began to twinkle above. "I can't wait to share all of this with my crew," she said, glancing at the larger predator, which had settled nearby, its eyes reflecting the starlight. "There's so much to learn, so much to understand. This world is full of surprises." The first rays of sunlight filtered through the dense canopy, casting a gentle glow over the grove. Lyra stirred awake, feeling the warmth of the sun on her skin and the soft rustle of leaves in the morning breeze. She blinked, taking in her surroundings. The council of creatures was beginning to stir, their movements graceful and purposeful. Stretching, she felt the energy of the previous day surge within her. The events of the battle, the camaraderie of the animals, and the plans for their future all filled her with hope and determination. She rose to her feet, brushing off the remnants of sleep, and smiled at the larger predator, which was still watching over her. "Good morning," she said, her voice warm with gratitude. The creature let out a low rumble, almost like a purr, as if to acknowledge her presence. Lyra felt a surge of affection for it, knowing that they were now bound by shared experiences. "Today, we start fresh," she declared, looking around at the waking grove. "Let's work together." The feathered creature fluttered up from its perch, landing lightly on her shoulder. "Ready to face the day?" she asked it, feeling an inexplicable bond forming. It chirped in response, a cheerful sound that lifted her spirits even higher. As the council of beasts began to gather, she noticed a few new faces among the familiar ones. More squirrels joined the assembly, their eyes bright with curiosity, while other small creatures, like rabbits and a few timid deer, peeked from behind the trees. The morning air buzzed with excitement. "I want to share the idea we came up with last night," Lyra said, raising her voice so everyone could hear. The creatures fell silent, their attention fixed on her. "Together, we can create a warning system to alert one another of danger, especially from fire or any predators that might threaten this grove." The older squirrel from the previous night stepped forward, its tufted tail flicking with eagerness. "How can we help?" it asked, its voice determined. "Let's designate lookout spots in the trees and along the perimeter of the grove," she suggested. "Squirrels and smaller birds can keep watch and signal if they see any danger. We can use different calls or movements to convey messages." The council murmured in agreement, their eyes shining with enthusiasm. The larger predator stood nearby, its posture relaxed, as if it too understood the importance of this initiative. "Let's divide into teams," Lyra continued, feeling the energy of the moment. "We can assign roles based on your strengths. Some can scout, others can gather resources, and we'll need to practice our signals." A wave of excitement rippled through the crowd. The squirrels chattered animatedly, their voices rising in a symphony of ideas, while the deer shifted nervously but curiously, eager to contribute. The larger predator let out a soft growl, encouraging the animals to focus. "All right," Lyra said, her heart racing with a thrill of collaboration. "Let's start by identifying our lookout points. We'll need the tallest trees for the best visibility." As they began to move, Lyra found herself alongside the older squirrel, which darted up a nearby tree, its agile form climbing effortlessly. "I'll take the highest branch and keep watch over the eastern edge," it called down, determination evident in its voice. "The morning light will make it easier to spot any danger." "Great idea," Lyra cheered, watching as the squirrel expertly maneuvered through the branches. "I'll head to the west and see what I can find." As she set off, the feathered creature took flight, circling overhead, providing aerial support. "I'll be your eyes in the sky," it chirped, flapping its wings enthusiastically. Lyra smiled, feeling empowered by the teamwork unfolding around her. She reached the edge of the grove, taking a moment to survey the landscape. The forest stretched out before her, a tapestry of greens and browns, the sun casting dappled light across the ground. Finding a sturdy tree, she began to climb, moving carefully to avoid breaking any branches. The higher she climbed, the more she could see the rolling hills in the distance, the shimmering stream that wound its way through the forest, and the bustling life of the grove below. Reaching a thick branch near the top, she settled in, taking a moment to catch her breath. "This is perfect," she called down to the others, her voice carried by the wind. "I have a clear view of everything." Below, the council was busy assigning tasks. The larger predator had positioned itself near the entrance to the grove, its watchful gaze scanning for any signs of intruders. The smaller animals seemed more at ease, moving about with a renewed sense of purpose. As she scanned the horizon, Lyra's heart quickened at the sight of a distant plume of smoke rising against the blue sky. Her instincts kicked in, a wave of urgency washing over her. "Everyone, we need to regroup," she shouted, adrenaline surging through her veins. The feathered creature swooped down to her side, its expression serious. "What is it?" "Smoke. Over there," she pointed, her voice tense. "We need to alert the others. Fire could be coming our way." The feathered creature took off immediately, darting toward the grove to spread the message. "Danger! Gather everyone," it called out, its voice a clarion call that echoed through the trees. Lyra quickly descended the tree, urgency propelling her down the trunk. The council was already responding, the squirrels leaping into action, while the larger predator positioned itself between the grove and the source of the smoke. As she reached the ground, Lyra gathered everyone in a tight circle. "We need to prepare for potential danger," she said, her voice steady. "If fire is approaching, we must create barriers and safe zones. The larger predator can help guide the deer and other animals to safety." The larger predator nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "I will lead them to the stream," it said, its voice deep and resonant. "It will provide a safe haven." "Good," Lyra replied, feeling a surge of gratitude. "Squirrels and smaller birds can help warn each other, while we work to create barriers with mud and leaves to slow down the fire if it comes." The animals moved quickly, forming a plan. The squirrels scurried up the trees, relaying messages to each other, while the rabbits began to gather foliage and debris to build barriers. The deer, although nervous, followed the larger predator, trusting its leadership. "Let's stay calm and focused," Lyra encouraged, her heart racing but her mind clear. "We've worked together to face danger before. We can do this again." As the smoke grew thicker on the horizon, the urgency of their mission deepened. The feathered creature flew above, alerting any nearby animals to move to safety, while Lyra coordinated the efforts of the council. "Let's create a barrier here," she said, pointing to a low area near the edge of the grove. "We can pile up branches and mud to help block any flames from spreading." The creatures worked tirelessly, their efforts synchronized as they gathered materials and formed a makeshift wall. Lyra marveled at the determination and resilience of her newfound friends. Each animal played a role, contributing its strength to the collective effort. "Look!" one of the squirrels shouted, pointing with its paw. "The smoke is getting closer." Lyra's heart sank as she turned to see the dark clouds swirling, carried by the wind. "We need to move quickly," she urged. "Finish the barrier and prepare for any evacuation." As they continued to work, the first crackle of fire echoed in the distance, a stark reminder of the impending danger. Lyra felt a rush of adrenaline, knowing that time was slipping away. "We can do this," she shouted, her voice ringing with conviction. The larger predator positioned itself closer to the stream, guiding the deer and smaller creatures toward safety. "This way, stay together," it called, its voice a steadying force amid the chaos. Lyra focused on the barrier, urging the squirrels to pile the last branches. "We're almost there," she encouraged, her heart racing. "Just a little more." As they completed the makeshift wall, the crackling grew louder, and the smoke began to fill the air, darkening the once serene grove. Lyra turned to the larger predator, a surge of gratitude coursing through her. "You've done an amazing job keeping them safe," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. The predator nodded, its eyes fierce and protective. "We must remain vigilant. If the fire comes, we'll guide them to the stream." With the barrier in place, Lyra scanned the horizon. The fire loomed closer now, flames licking at the dry underbrush, sending sparks dancing into the air. She could feel the heat even from a distance, the urgency of their situation pressing down on her like a weight. "Everyone, stay alert," she called, her voice ringing out. "We have to be ready to move at a moment's notice." As the fire drew nearer, the animals began to group closer to the stream, the larger predator standing guard, its presence a bastion of strength. The smaller creatures huddled together, their eyes wide with fear, but trusting in the council's leadership. "Remember, we're in this together," Lyra reassured them, her voice calm but firm. "We have each other, and we will protect one another." The flames roared, an inferno that danced hungrily toward the grove. Lyra could feel the heat on her skin, a tangible reminder of the danger they faced. Her heart raced as she glanced at the larger predator, its muscles taut with anticipation, eyes locked on the advancing fire. "Gather close," she shouted, rallying the animals near the stream. "We'll need to stick together and follow the larger predator to safety." The creatures moved swiftly, urgency propelling them as they huddled against the predator's side. The larger animal remained calm, its presence a stabilizing force amid the chaos. Lyra took a deep breath, her resolve solidifying. She had to keep everyone focused and united. "Keep your eyes on me," she instructed, her voice steady despite the rising panic around her. "We'll move when I give the signal." She scanned the approaching flames, which were now just a few hundred yards away, crackling and snapping like hungry beasts themselves. The feathered creature perched above, its keen eyes scanning the area for any signs of danger. "Fire is getting closer," it squawked, its voice sharp and urgent. "We must hurry." "Hold your ground for just a moment longer," Lyra urged. "We'll move as one." As the flames continued to advance, the air grew thick with smoke, stinging Lyra's eyes and making it difficult to breathe. She could feel the panic rising among the smaller creatures. "We can do this," she repeated, her tone firm. "Trust in one another." The fire surged forward, embers swirling in the wind, and a powerful gust sent sparks into the air. "Now," Lyra shouted, her voice cutting through the haze. "Follow me." With the larger predator leading the way, the group bolted toward the stream, the roar of the fire filling their ears. Lyra felt her heart pounding, a rhythm of fear and adrenaline that pushed her to keep moving. The heat was intense, radiating behind them, urging them to go faster. As they reached the edge of the stream, the larger predator paused, scanning the area for threats. "Stay low," it commanded, and the animals instinctively crouched, pressing close to the ground as the flames continued to race toward them. Lyra glanced back at the approaching fire, the brightness almost blinding. "We need to create a safe perimeter," she said, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. "If we can't stop the fire, we must at least contain it." The larger predator nodded, its expression fierce. "I'll lead the others along the stream to find higher ground. You stay here and guide the rest." Lyra felt a pang of worry. "But what if the fire reaches us?" "It won't," the predator replied, its voice calm but resolute. "Trust in our bond. I will return for you." With that, it turned and led the deer and smaller creatures away, their forms disappearing into the trees as they followed the stream's curve. Lyra swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her own role in this desperate situation. "All right, everyone, listen up," she called to the remaining animals. "We need to dig a trench along the edge of the stream. It will help contain the fire and provide a barrier between us and the flames." The animals nodded, their determination renewed. They began to scrape at the ground with their paws, claws, and snouts, working together to dig a shallow trench. The squirrels climbed trees to gather fallen branches, while the rabbits scurried to collect leaves and mud. As they worked, the crackling fire drew closer, the heat intensifying. Lyra could feel the sweat trickling down her back, the air thick with the smell of smoke. She pushed herself to work harder, knowing that every second counted. "Stay focused," she urged, her voice rising above the sound of the flames. "We can do this, just a little more." The trench began to take shape, a narrow line of earth that could potentially slow the flames. Lyra glanced back at the fire, which was now just a few hundred feet away, roaring with fury. She felt a wave of fear wash over her, but fought to keep it at bay. "Let's pile the branches along the edge," she directed, pointing to the growing mound of debris. "It will act as a shield against the fire's heat." The animals rallied, working tirelessly to build the barrier. The larger predator had instilled confidence in them, and they pushed through their exhaustion, determination fueling their efforts. As they piled branches and mud, the fire crept closer, licking at the underbrush and sending showers of sparks into the air. "Almost there," Lyra shouted, her heart racing. She could see the orange glow reflecting off the water's surface, the flames reaching hungrily for anything in their path. "Just a little further." Finally, as they completed the barrier, a wave of heat surged over them, making Lyra's skin prickle. "Get back," she yelled, urging the animals to retreat further from the fire. They clustered together, pressing against the cool earth by the stream, their eyes wide with fear. The crackling intensified as the flames surged forward, swallowing the trees and brush. Lyra felt her heart race, but she forced herself to stay calm. "Stay low, stay together," she called, reminding them of their bond. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the grove as a tree fell, collapsing into the fire. The flames roared higher, light the area with a fiery glow. "It's getting worse," one of the rabbits squeaked, its voice trembling. Lyra took a deep breath, trying to calm her own nerves. "We've prepared for this," she reminded the group. "We'll stay close to the stream, and when the fire passes, we'll assess the damage and regroup." The heat was relentless, and the smoke thickened, stinging her eyes and making it hard to breathe. The feathered creature swooped low, returning from its scouting. "The larger predator is leading the others to safety," it chirped, its voice urgent. "They're finding higher ground along the stream." "Good," Lyra replied, her heart lifting slightly at the news. "We need to wait for them to return." The flames continued to dance and roar, a living entity that seemed to consume everything in its path. Lyra could feel the heat radiating from the fire, her instincts screaming for her to flee. "Stay together," she shouted again, feeling a surge of protectiveness over the smaller creatures huddled close to her. As they crouched by the stream, the crackling fire surged forward, and the air shimmered with heat. Lyra could feel her heart pounding in her chest, a wild rhythm of fear and determination. "We'll get through this," she promised, looking around at her companions. "We have each other." Suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the trees, sending shivers down her spine. It was the larger predator returning, its powerful form cutting through the smoke as it rushed toward them, guiding the other animals back to safety. "Follow me," it commanded, its voice fierce and reassuring. With renewed hope, Lyra led the group as they followed the larger predator along the stream, moving away from the encroaching flames. The fear in the air hung heavy, but the bond they had formed gave them strength. "Keep moving," Lyra urged, her eyes scanning the area for any signs of danger. The flames roared behind them, but they pressed on, determined to find safety. As they reached a high ridge overlooking the grove, Lyra turned to see the flames consuming the trees below, a devastating sight that struck her heart. "We have to find a way to help," she shouted, her voice filled with urgency. The larger predator stood tall, surveying the scene. "We must let the fire pass before we return. It's too dangerous now," it said, its voice calm but authoritative. Lyra nodded, her heart heavy with the loss she could already feel. "But what about the grove? The animals that might be trapped?" "We'll come back when it's safe," the predator reassured her. "We can't help anyone if we put ourselves at risk." As the flames continued to ravage the grove, Lyra felt a surge of helplessness wash over her. She had come to this world seeking knowledge and understanding, but now it was a battle for survival. "We can't just stand here," she said, her voice shaking with urgency. "We need to organize and prepare to help once it's safe." The council of animals rallied around her, their determination palpable. "What can we do?" the older squirrel asked, its eyes bright with resolve. "We need to establish a recovery plan," Lyra replied, feeling the fire within her ignite. "Once the flames pass, we can start looking for any survivors and assess the damage. We need to have a plan in place." The animals nodded, their resolve strengthening in the face of adversity. They began to discuss their options, strategizing how they could assist their community once it was safe to return. Hours passed, and the fire burned brightly below, casting an eerie glow over the ridge. The animals remained vigilant, their eyes focused on the flames. Lyra felt a sense of unity enveloping them, a shared commitment to protect their home and each other. "Look," the feathered creature called, its voice rising above the crackling fire. "The flames are starting to die down." The air was heavy with the acrid scent of smoke, and the sun hung low in the sky, its light a sickly orange hue that cast eerie shadows across the devastated grove. Lyra and the Council of Animals moved quickly, urgency coursing through their veins as they navigated the destruction. The sense of camaraderie they had forged during the fire was palpable, fueling their determination to rescue those in need. "Over here," a squirrel called, its voice sharp with alarm. Lyra turned to see a small family of rabbits, their fur singed but their eyes wide with fear. They were huddled beneath a fallen tree, the branches looming like a dark cage. "Let's get them out," she shouted, rallying the other animals. She hurried over, kneeling beside the tree. "Can you lift that side?" she asked the larger predator, who stood nearby, ready to help. "Of course," it replied, its voice deep and steady. The predator gripped a large branch with its powerful jaws, preparing to lift. "On 3, Lyra instructed, her heart racing. 1, 2, 3. With a mighty heave, the predator lifted the branch, revealing the trembling rabbits beneath. They blinked in the sudden light, their ears twitching in confusion. "Come on, it's safe," Lyra urged, extending her hand. The rabbits hesitated, but then darted out, their little bodies shaking. "Thank you," one of them squeaked, relief washing over its features. "Stay close," the feathered creature chimed in, flapping its wings as it encouraged the rabbits to join the group. "We're all safe together now." As they regrouped, Lyra felt a swell of hope. "Let's keep moving," she said, her voice steady. "There may be more animals that need our help." They pressed deeper into the grove, the destruction growing more apparent with each step. The once familiar landscape was unrecognizable, the vibrant greens reduced to ashen grays and charred blacks. A pang of sorrow filled her heart as she surveyed the damage, but she pushed it aside. They had a mission. "Look," one of the squirrels called from a nearby log. "There's another family trapped." Lyra rushed over, her heart pounding. This time, a group of small birds was caught beneath a collapsed branch. "We need to act fast," she urged, assessing the situation. "They're scared and might fly away if we're not careful." "I'll keep an eye on them from above," the feathered creature said, soaring up into the air. "I'll signal if any predators are nearby." "Thank you," Lyra called after it, feeling a sense of gratitude wash over her. She turned her attention back to the trapped birds. "Okay, everyone, we need to work together. We can't let them get spooked." The larger predator positioned itself beside the branch, ready to help. "On my count," it said, its voice firm. "Let's lift it and create a safe path for them." "Right," Lyra nodded. 1, 2, 3. With a coordinated effort, they lifted the branch. Lyra felt a surge of triumph as the birds flitted free, their wings fluttering in a chaotic dance of relief. "You're safe now," she exclaimed, watching them soar up into the sky. As the birds joined the feathered creature, who was circling overhead, Lyra turned back to the group. "We need to stay vigilant. There could still be others in trouble." They pressed on, and the sense of purpose fueled their movements. Lyra felt a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration, knowing that each rescued creature added to the strength of their community. Together, they could weather this storm. After some time, they came upon a clearing that had been spared from the flames, the ground littered with debris, but still relatively intact. "Let's take a moment to regroup," Lyra suggested, feeling the fatigue settle into her bones. "We need to assess how many we've rescued and plan our next steps." As the animals settled down, Lyra glanced around at the faces of her companions. There was weariness in their eyes, but also resilience, a shared understanding that they were in this together. "Let's count everyone," she proposed. "Make sure no one is left behind." The larger predator nodded, its eyes scanning the group. "I'll take the lead in ensuring the larger animals are accounted for. The smaller creatures can huddle together for warmth." As they began the process of counting, Lyra felt a sense of urgency tugging at her. I'll check the perimeter, she said, glancing toward the edge of the clearing. We can't afford to miss anyone. Be careful, one of the rabbits called, concern etched on its face. I will, she promised, offering a reassuring smile. I'll be back soon. Lyra moved cautiously, her heart racing as she navigated through the rubble. The sounds of her companions faded behind her, replaced by the crackling of embers and the whisper of the wind. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were still in danger. The fire may have subsided, but the aftermath was fraught with peril. As she ventured deeper into the grove, the devastation around her grew more profound. Charred trees loomed like sentinels, their blackened forms stark against the sky. The ground crunched beneath her feet, remnants of the once thriving ecosystem reduced to ash. Suddenly, she heard a faint whimpering sound. Her heart leapt as she followed the noise, moving cautiously toward its source. "Hello," she called out softly, hoping to soothe whatever creature was in distress. There, hidden beneath a tangle of roots, she found a small fox, its leg trapped beneath a fallen branch. Its fur was singed, and its eyes were wide with fear. "Oh no," Lyra whispered, kneeling beside it. "I'm here to help." The fox looked up at her, its body trembling. "Please, help me," it whimpered, its voice weak. "I will," Lyra promised, her heart aching for the small creature. "Just stay still, okay?" She assessed the situation, noting the position of the branch. It was heavy, but if she could shift it just right, the fox could escape. "Hold on," she said, taking a deep breath. "I'll lift this up. You have to be ready to run." "Okay," the fox replied, its voice trembling. Lyra gripped the branch, her muscles straining as she pushed against its weight. 1, 2, 3. With a grunt, she heaved the branch upward, feeling it shift. The fox squirmed free, its leg trembling as it stood on shaky paws. "Thank you," it gasped, its eyes wide with gratitude. "I thought I was done for." "Just take it slow," Lyra said, watching as the fox tested its leg. "Can you walk?" The fox took a cautious step, then another, and soon it was moving more confidently. "I think so," it said, looking up at her with shining eyes. "But I need to find my family." "Let's go together," Lyra offered, feeling a sense of urgency. "There are others around. We're helping as many as we can." As they made their way back toward the clearing, the fox glanced at the destruction surrounding them. "What happened?" it asked, sorrow coloring its voice. "A fire," Lyra explained, her heart heavy. "But we're doing our best to help everyone. You're safe now." When they reached the clearing, Lyra was met with a flurry of activity. The council had gathered, the animals regrouping and sharing stories of their rescues. "Lyra," the larger predator called, relief flooding its voice. "You're back." "I found a fox," she replied, gesturing to the small creature beside her. "It was trapped, but is okay now." The animals welcomed the fox with a chorus of kind words, their spirits lifting at the sight of another rescued soul. "We're so glad you're safe," the older squirrel chirped, its eyes bright with warmth. As they settled down together, Lyra felt a sense of unity enveloping the group. They had faced fire and destruction, but in the aftermath, they had found strength in each other. "Has everyone been counted?" she asked, glancing at the larger predator. "Most are accounted for, but a few smaller creatures are still missing," it replied, its expression serious. "We need to search the areas closer to the blaze." "Let's do it," Lyra said, her heart racing with determination. "We can't leave anyone behind." As they prepared to set out again, the council discussed how best to organize their search. "We should split into smaller groups," the larger predator suggested. "This will allow us to cover more ground." "I can lead one group," Lyra volunteered, feeling a sense of purpose rising within her. "I'll take the smaller creatures with me." "Then I'll go with you," the feathered creature said, swooping down to her side. "I can scout from above." "Perfect," Lyra smiled, feeling reassured by the support of her friends. "Let's make sure everyone knows the plan before we set out." As they gathered together, she spoke clearly. We're going to search for any remaining animals in need. Remember to stay alert and communicate with each other. We'll be back before sunset." The sun hung low in the sky, painting the remnants of the grove with an eerie orange glow. As Lyra and her group of smaller creatures moved cautiously through the devastation, the air was thick with a scent of charred wood and smoldering earth. Every crunch of ash beneath their feet served as a stark reminder of the chaos that had unfolded. "Keep your eyes peeled," she urged, glancing up at the feathered creature circling overhead. "If you spot anything unusual, let us know immediately." "Got it," it called back, its keen eyes scanning the ground and trees for any sign of movement. The trust Lyra had placed in her companions provided her with strength, but doubt lingered in the back of her mind. What if they didn't find everyone? What if they were too late? Pushing her fears aside, she focused on the task at hand. "Stay close," she instructed the rabbits and squirrels trailing behind her. "We're stronger together." As they wove through the remains of what had once been a lush and vibrant habitat, Lyra felt a pang of sorrow at the sight of familiar landmarks, now reduced to ash. The old oak tree where she had first met the council was a blackened stump, its branches nothing more than twisted remains. She had shared laughter and stories beneath its leaves, and now it lay silent, a memory of a brighter past. "Over here," one of the rabbits squeaked, pointing to a tangle of fallen branches a short distance away. "I think I heard something." Lyra's heart raced as they approached the site. "Careful," she said, kneeling to peer beneath the debris. "Is anyone there?" A soft whimper reached her ears, sending a chill down her spine. "Help! I can't move," came a faint voice. "Stay calm. We're here to help," Lyra called out, her resolve strengthening. She and the others quickly began to clear away the branches, their small paws working in unison. "Just hold on." As they removed the last of the debris, a small badger emerged, its eyes wide with fear and relief. "Thank you. I thought I was going to be stuck forever," it gasped, panting heavily. "Take it easy," Lyra said, helping the badger to its feet. "Are you hurt?" "No, just scared," the badger replied, its voice trembling. "I was hiding when the fire came, and then everything collapsed around me." "We need to get you back to the clearing," Lyra said, glancing at her companions. "Let's move." The group hurried back toward the clearing, the badger following closely behind. As they made their way through the devastation, Lyra felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. They were making a difference, one creature at a time. When they reached the clearing, the atmosphere was buzzing with activity. The larger predator stood tall, overseeing the gathering of rescued animals, and Lyra felt a sense of relief wash over her as she spotted familiar faces. "We found a badger," Lyra announced, and the group welcomed the newcomer with cheers and encouragement. "Thank you for saving me," the badger said, eyes shining with gratitude. "I thought I was all alone." "Never alone," the larger predator said, its voice deep and reassuring. "We are a community, and we look out for each other." As they regrouped, the animals shared their stories of survival and rescue. The council discussed their next steps, the urgency of their mission still evident. "We need to ensure everyone is accounted for," the larger predator said, its expression serious. "There are still areas we haven't searched." "I'm ready to go back out," Lyra offered, feeling the adrenaline pumping through her veins. "I want to help find the others." "Me too," a squirrel piped up, its eyes wide with determination. "We can't stop now." The larger predator nodded. "Let's split into teams again. We'll cover more ground that way." As the groups organized, Lyra felt a sense of solidarity among the animals. They were more than just individual creatures. They were part of something greater, a family bound by shared experience and resilience. "Let's head toward the edge of the grove," Lyra suggested. "There might be animals trapped near the perimeter, where the fire first struck." "I'll fly above to keep an eye on things," the feathered creature said, launching itself into the air once more. "I'll signal if I spot anyone." With their plan in place, Lyra and her team set off toward the outskirts of the grove. The further they traveled, the more desolate the landscape became. Charred remnants of trees and bushes lay in ruin, and the silence was deafening. "Do you think we'll find anyone?" a timid rabbit asked, its voice barely above a whisper. "I believe we will," Lyra replied, trying to instill confidence. "We just have to keep looking." As they pushed through the debris, they came upon a small hollow beneath the roots of an uprooted tree. Lyra knelt down, peering inside. "Hello?" she called softly. "Is anyone in there?" A faint rustling answered her, and she held her breath. "Please, we're here to help," she urged. The rustling intensified, and then a small family of hedgehogs emerged, their quills singed but their eyes bright with fear. "We thought we would die in there," one of the hedgehogs cried, trembling. "Not on our watch," Lyra assured them, her heart swelling with determination. "Let's get you out of here." With a little coaxing, the hedgehogs followed Lyra and her companions back toward the clearing. Each new rescue revitalized their spirits, the small successes fueling their determination to find everyone who might still be in danger. "Keep your ears open," Lyra instructed, her senses heightened. "We need to be vigilant." As they approached a more heavily burned area, she felt a shiver run down her spine. The devastation was overwhelming, and the air felt heavy with despair. "Stay close," she reminded her companions, but as they moved further in, a sudden sound pierced the silence. "Help! Somebody help!" a frantic voice cried out from somewhere ahead. "Did you hear that?" a squirrel exclaimed, eyes wide with alarm. "Yes, it's coming from over there," Lyra pointed, heart racing. "Let's go." They dashed toward the sound, urgency propelling them forward. As they reached a small clearing, they found a young raccoon, tangled in a mess of vines and branches. Its eyes were wide with fear, and it struggled to free itself. "Don't worry, we're here," Lyra called out, rushing to the raccoon's side. "We'll get you out." "Please hurry," the raccoon pleaded, panic lacing its voice. "I can't get loose." Lyra knelt beside it, carefully assessing the tangle of vines. "Just hold still," she instructed, her fingers deftly working to untie the knots. "You're going to be okay." The raccoon whimpered but trusted her. "I thought I'd never get out," it said, its voice shaky. With a final tug, Lyra managed to free the raccoon. "You're safe now," she declared, watching as it stumbled out of the vines, panting heavily. "Thank you. I thought I'd be trapped forever," the raccoon said, relief flooding its features. "I couldn't see anything in there." "Let's get you back to the others," Lyra said, ushering it along. "You're not alone anymore." As they returned to the clearing, Lyra felt the weight of their mission settle upon her. They had rescued so many, but there were still creatures missing. "We can't stop until we've searched every inch," she declared, determination lighting her eyes. "Agreed," the larger predator said, its presence reassuring. "We're in this together. We'll find everyone." As they prepared to set out once more, the atmosphere shifted. The air, thick with smoke and ash, felt charged with both desperation and hope. Each animal knew that the strength of their community was their greatest weapon against the shadows of despair. "Let's head to the northeast side," the feathered creature suggested, returning from its aerial scouting. "I saw movement near the remnants of the old den." "Then that's where we'll go," Lyra replied, a sense of urgency igniting within her. "Lead the way." They navigated through the charred landscape, their hearts pounding with purpose. With each step, the sense of collective strength and resolve filled the air around them. Lyra felt connected to each animal, an unspoken bond forged through adversity. As they neared the northeast side, they saw the remains of what had once been a bustling den. Now it lay in ruins, debris scattered everywhere. "Is anyone there?" Lyra called out, hoping against hope. Silence enveloped them, heavy and unsettling. Just as doubt began to creep in, a faint rustling caught her attention. "Over there!" she shouted, pointing toward a pile of rubble. They rushed forward, and as they cleared the debris, a small family of field mice emerged, their eyes wide with fear. "We thought we were trapped," one of them cried, relief flooding their tiny faces. "Not anymore," Lyra exclaimed, her heart soaring. "You're safe now." With each rescue, they found strength in their unity. As they gathered the mice, Lyra felt a flicker of hope growing stronger. They were a team, and together they could weather any storm. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows that danced across the remnants of the grove. Lyra and her companions had successfully rescued the family of field mice, their spirits buoyed by each creature they had saved. Yet, the day was not over, and Lyra felt the urgency of their mission still pulsing in the air. "Let's regroup and share what we found," the larger predator suggested, its tone serious yet supportive. "We need to ensure we're covering all possible areas." As they returned to the central clearing, Lyra felt the weight of the day settle upon her. Each rescued animal brought joy, but with each success, the shadows of what remained lost hung heavier in her heart. She scanned the faces of her friends, seeing both relief and exhaustion etched on their features. "Gather around," she called, and the animals formed a tight circle, their eyes filled with anticipation. "We've rescued so many today, but we need to make sure we haven't missed anyone." One by one, the animals shared their stories of rescue, how they had found others, their struggles, and the ways they had worked together to help. Each tale of bravery fueled Lyra's resolve, yet she couldn't shake the lingering worry for those still missing. "Lyra," the feathered creature said, gliding down to her side, "I spotted something near the edge of the grove. There was a faint cry, but I couldn't get closer. It was too risky." Lyra's heart quickened. "We need to check it out. It could be another animal in distress." "Let's go," a young squirrel chimed in, bouncing on its paws. "We can't leave anyone behind." The larger predator nodded. "Stay alert. We don't know what we might encounter." As they set out toward the area the feathered creature had mentioned, the sun continued its descent, painting the sky in hues of purple and gold. The beauty of the sunset contrasted sharply with the devastation around them, a poignant reminder of what they had lost. "Do you think we'll find anyone else?" one of the rabbits asked, its voice tinged with worry. "I believe we will," Lyra replied, her tone firm. "We just have to keep searching." As they reached the perimeter of the grove, the air grew cooler, and the scent of ash lingered in the breeze. They moved cautiously, eyes scanning the ground and trees for any signs of life. "Over there!" the feathered creature exclaimed, pointing with its wing. "I think I see something moving among the debris." Lyra's heart raced as they rushed toward the spot. The closer they got, the more anxious she became. "Is anyone there?" she called out, her voice echoing in the stillness. A small voice responded, trembling with fear. "Help! I can't find my family." "Stay calm. We're here to help," Lyra reassured, rushing forward. She could see a small otter, its fur singed and eyes wide with distress. "What happened? Where are your family members?" "We were playing near the stream when the fire came," the otter sobbed. "I got separated from them." "Don't worry," Lyra said, kneeling beside the frightened creature. "We'll help you find them. Can you remember where you last saw them?" The otter nodded, wiping tears from its eyes. "We were near the big rock by the water's edge. I think they might still be there." "Then that's where we'll go," Lyra declared, her heart pounding with purpose. "Everyone, let's move." As they raced toward the stream, Lyra felt a surge of determination. They would find the otter's family, and they would bring them back together. The bond between them was strong, forged through shared experiences of fear and loss, and now it was time to reinforce that bond. When they reached the water's edge, the once familiar landscape was now a desolate wasteland. The rock the otter had mentioned was still standing, but the surrounding area was scorched and empty. Lyra's heart sank. "Is this where you last saw them?" she asked gently. "Yes," the otter replied, its voice barely above a whisper. "They were right here. I just turned away for a second." "Let's search the area," the larger predator suggested, its gaze scanning the surroundings. "They may still be close by." As they spread out along the water's edge, Lyra felt a deep ache in her chest. The water, usually vibrant and full of life, now reflected the emptiness of their surroundings. She tried to push the darkness from her mind, focusing on the task at hand. "Call out if you see anything," she instructed, her voice firm. "We'll find them." Minutes passed, each one stretching into an eternity. Lyra could feel the weight of the otter's worry pressing down on her, and her heart ached with empathy. "We'll find your family," she reassured the otter again, determination flowing through her. Just as doubt began to creep into her thoughts, she caught sight of movement out of the corner of her eye. "Over here," she called, rushing toward the sound. As she approached, she found another small otter, its fur matted and its eyes wide with fear. "I'm here," it cried, voice trembling. "I can't find my brother." Lyra's heart raced. "Stay calm. We're here to help you. Do you know where you last saw him?" The small otter nodded, pointing toward the rocks. "He was playing by the water when the fire came. I ran, but I didn't see where he went." "Let's check the area," Lyra said, urgency propelling her forward. "We'll find him." They scoured the rocks and shallow water, calling out for the otter's brother. "Can you remember anything about him?" Lyra asked as they searched. "He has a little scar on his ear," the otter said, voice wavering with emotion. "He'll be scared." "Don't worry," Lyra said, her heart heavy with determination. "We'll find him. I promise." As they continued their search, a flicker of movement caught Lyra's eye near the edge of the water. "There!" she exclaimed, pointing. "I think I see something." They rushed toward the spot, and Lyra's heart raced as they drew closer. There, hidden among the reeds, lay the missing otter. Its body was still, and for a moment, fear gripped Lyra's heart. "Please be okay," she whispered, moving forward cautiously. As they approached, the otter stirred, blinking against the light. "What happened?" it murmured, looking confused and dazed. "Are you hurt?" Lyra asked, concern flooding her voice. The otter shook its head slowly. "I don't think so. I was just so scared." "Your family is looking for you," Lyra said urgently. "Come on, let's get you back to them." With a collective sigh of relief, they guided the small otter back to the water's edge, where its sibling awaited anxiously. "You found him," the small otter cried, rushing forward to embrace its brother. "I thought I lost you," the missing otter exclaimed, tears of joy filling its eyes. "I was so scared." Lyra felt a wave of warmth wash over her as she watched the reunion. This was what they had been fighting for, a community coming together, finding strength in each other in times of despair. "Thank you so much," the family of otters said, their voices trembling with gratitude. "You saved us." "It was a team effort," Lyra replied, her heart swelling with pride. "We're all in this together." As they returned to the clearing, the setting sun cast a golden light across the landscape. Lyra felt a renewed sense of hope, the bond between the creatures of the grove growing stronger with each rescue. They were not just survivors, they were a family forged in the fires of adversity. When they reached the gathering, the atmosphere was filled with excitement and relief. The Council of Animals shared stories of their own rescues, and Lyra couldn't help but smile at the sight of her friends coming together. "Everyone, this is a time to celebrate our resilience," the larger predator said, its voice booming yet warm. "We have faced darkness and emerged stronger together." As the animals gathered, they shared their stories, laughter breaking through the remnants of sorrow. The sun began to set, painting the sky with hues of pink and gold, a reminder that even in the darkest times, light could break through. Lyra felt a sense of belonging, a feeling that they were all part of something greater. She glanced at her companions, their faces light by the fading light, and knew that their journey was far from over. "Tomorrow, we will continue our search," the larger predator announced. "But tonight, we celebrate our strength and our unity." As the animals began to share food and stories, Lyra felt a swell of hope within her. They had survived the fire, but they would also rise from its ashes, stronger and more connected than ever. The bonds they had formed in the face of adversity would guide them forward, light the path to healing and renewal. As night descended, the stars began to twinkle overhead, a reminder of the beauty that still existed in the world. Together, they had faced the darkness and emerged into the light. And as Lyra looked around at the gathering of creatures who had become her family, she knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The morning sun broke over the horizon, casting a warm glow across the grove. As Lyra stirred awake, the sounds of rustling leaves and gentle chirps filled the air, a stark contrast to the chaos of the previous days. She stretched, feeling a renewed sense of purpose coursing through her. Today was a new day, and with it came the promise of hope. Lyra joined her friends in the clearing, where animals gathered to share breakfast. The atmosphere was vibrant, laughter echoing as they swapped stories and celebrated their recent rescues. However, beneath the joy lay an undercurrent of anxiety, a shared awareness that the threat they had faced was not entirely gone. "Lyra," the feathered creature called out, swooping down to join her. "Have you seen the larger predator? I think it wants to talk to us." "Not yet," she replied, scanning the gathering. "But I'll look for it. Something tells me we need to discuss our next steps." As she moved through the crowd, Lyra felt a sense of unity among her companions. Each creature had faced the fire, each had lost something or someone dear, and yet here they were, standing strong together. She spotted the larger predator near the edge of the clearing, its imposing figure silhouetted against the sunlight. "Gather around," it called, its voice commanding yet comforting. "We have much to discuss." Lyra joined the assembly, her heart pounding with anticipation. The predator looked serious, eyes scanning the crowd as the chatter quieted. "Yesterday was a significant victory for us," it began, "but we must not forget that the dangers are still out there." "What do you mean?" a rabbit piped up, its ears perked in concern. "I have been observing the outskirts of the grove," the larger predator explained. "I notice signs of more activity. The smoke from the fire has drawn not only our kind, but also those who may wish to take advantage of our vulnerability." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Lyra's heart sank as she considered the implications. "You mean predators?" she asked, her voice steady despite her fear. "Precisely," the larger predator replied. "We need to strengthen our defenses and remain vigilant. We can't afford to lose anyone else." "What do you suggest?" Lyra asked, her mind racing with possibilities. "We must divide our efforts," the predator continued. "Some of us will focus on finding more survivors in the deeper parts of the grove, while others will create a protective barrier around our gathering point. It's crucial that we work together and stay alert." "I can help with the barrier," the squirrel exclaimed, eyes sparkling with excitement. "I know the best spots to gather materials." "And I can scout from above," the feathered creature offered. "I'll keep an eye out for any approaching danger." Lyra felt a surge of determination. "I want to join the search party," she said, raising her voice to be heard. "There may still be creatures out there who need our help." The larger predator nodded. "Very well. We will need as many eyes on the ground as possible. Let's gather teams." As the animals broke into groups, Lyra felt a familiar camaraderie forming around her. She quickly joined the search team, eager to continue the work they had begun. The memories of their rescues fueled her determination, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something significant. "Stay close, everyone," Lyra said as they set off toward the grove's depths. "We'll cover more ground if we work together." They moved cautiously through the landscape, the air thick with the scent of ash and damp earth. The devastation from the fire remained evident, but signs of life began to emerge. Small sprouts of green pushed through the charred ground, a hopeful reminder that nature had a way of healing itself. "Look," a rabbit exclaimed, pointing toward a cluster of bushes. "There's something over there." Lyra's heart raced as they approached the thicket. "Is anyone there?" she called out, her voice ringing through the stillness. A low whimper answered, and Lyra's pulse quickened. "We're here to help," she shouted, moving closer. "Can you come out?" As they carefully parted the branches, a small deer emerged, its legs shaky and its eyes wide with fear. "I was hiding," it admitted, voice trembling. "I thought the fire would come back." It's okay now," Lyra reassured gently. "You're safe. We're here to help you get back to our gathering." "Thank you," the deer said, its voice a whisper. "I thought I was all alone." "You're not alone anymore," Lyra said, leading the way back. The sight of another rescued creature fueled the hope within her, and she could feel the strength of their community growing. As they returned to the clearing, Lyra spotted the barrier team hard at work. The squirrel and its companions were expertly weaving branches and leaves into a sturdy barricade. "Great job, everyone," she called out, feeling proud of their efforts. "Look what we found," the deer announced, and the animals gathered around to welcome the newcomer. The deer's presence brightened the atmosphere, a testament to their unwavering resolve. "Have you seen anyone else?" the larger predator asked, its voice filled with curiosity. "Not yet," the deer replied, "but I heard some voices in the distance, toward the stream. It sounded like more animals might be hiding there." Lyra's heart raced at the prospect of finding more survivors. "We need to check it out," she said, glancing at her companions. "Who's with me?" "I'll go," the feathered creature said, its wings spreading wide. "I can scout the area from above and see if there's any sign of life." "Me too," the squirrel chimed in, bouncing with enthusiasm. "We can't leave anyone behind." As the group readied themselves to head toward the stream, Lyra felt a wave of determination wash over her. They had become a family, bound by their shared experiences and their commitment to one another. Together, they could overcome any challenge. As they made their way to the stream, the sounds of water flowing became more pronounced, mingling with the chirps of birds returning to the grove. The beauty of the landscape was overshadowed by the devastation, yet Lyra felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. When they arrived at the water's edge, the scene was both familiar and foreign. The once vibrant stream had been marred by the fire, but small patches of life were beginning to emerge. Lyra scanned the area, searching for any signs of movement. "Can you hear that?" the feathered creature said, tilting its head. "It sounds like voices coming from that direction." Lyra nodded, her heart racing with anticipation. "Let's go." As they approached the source of the voices, they found a group of small animals gathered beneath a rocky overhang. Lyra recognized a few of them rabbits and field mice who had been part of their community. Their eyes were wide with fear and confusion. "Are you all right?" Lyra called out, her voice steady. "We're here to help." One of the rabbits stepped forward, its voice trembling. "We were hiding from the fire, and then we got lost. We thought we would never find our way back." "You're safe now," Lyra reassured them. "We're building a safe space for everyone. Come with us, and we'll get you back to the clearing." As they guided the group back, Lyra felt a sense of pride swell within her. Each creature they rescued was a testament to their resilience, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, hope could still shine through. Once they reached the clearing, the atmosphere was filled with excitement. The larger predator welcomed the newcomers, and the animals quickly embraced them, their laughter mingling with the sounds of the grove. "We can't thank you enough," one of the field mice said, eyes shining with gratitude. "We thought we were lost forever." Lyra smiled, feeling the warmth of their camaraderie. "You're part of our family now. We'll protect each other." As the day wore on, Lyra participated in the efforts to reinforce their defenses while also welcoming new arrivals. The barrier around the clearing began to take shape, and the animals worked together seamlessly, driven by a shared purpose. "We need to make sure we have enough resources," the larger predator said, surveying the progress. "We can't afford to become complacent." Lyra nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "What if we establish patrols? We can send groups out to scout the area and gather food, keeping an eye out for any potential threats." "That's a good idea," the larger predator replied. "Let's organize a rotation so everyone can contribute." As the animals gathered to discuss the plan, Lyra felt a surge of excitement. They were not just surviving, they were thriving, finding strength in each other's company. The sense of community enveloped her like a warm embrace. As evening approached, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow across the clearing. Lyra looked around at her friends, a sense of belonging washing over her. They had come so far, and together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the stars began to twinkle above, she took a moment to reflect. The shadows of the past still lingered, but the light of hope burned brightly within their community. They were not just survivors, they were warriors, united by their shared experiences and their unwavering resolve. As dawn broke, Lyra felt the excitement and tension weave together like the delicate strands of a spider's web. The grove, still cloaked in the early morning mist, was alive with the promise of a new day. She rose early, eager to take part in the patrols that would further secure their home. "Lyra," the feathered creature called, flitting down from a low branch. "Are you ready for today?" "Absolutely," Lyra replied, a smile spreading across her face. "I can't wait to see what we find out there." The clearing buzzed with activity as animals prepared for the day's efforts. Lyra joined a group that included the larger predator, the squirrel, and the feathered creature, forming a team that would head toward the northern part of the grove. "Stay alert and keep an eye out for anything unusual," the larger predator instructed. "Remember, we're not just looking for danger, but also for signs of new life. There may still be creatures in need." With a collective nod, they set off, the excitement palpable. As they moved deeper into the grove, the lush green foliage began to thicken, interspersed with the charred remains of trees. The contrast was stark, but the promise of renewal was evident. Small plants peeked through the ashes, reaching for the light. "Look over there," the squirrel pointed, its eyes wide. "I think I see a burrow." They approached cautiously, and as they neared, a small family of rabbits poked their heads out, their fur still slightly singed. "We thought the fire had gotten us," one of them said, trembling. "We've been hiding ever since." "You're safe now," Lyra exclaimed, relief flooding through her. "Come with us. We're building a community in the clearing. You can join us." The rabbits hesitated, but then slowly emerged from their burrow, their eyes darting around as they adjusted to the light. With Lyra leading the way, they began to head back, her heart swelling with the knowledge that they were expanding their family. As they walked, the feathered creature suddenly halted, its head cocked to one side. "Do you hear that?" it asked, eyes narrowed in concentration. Lyra strained her ears and caught a faint, distressed sound in the distance. "It sounds like someone's in trouble," she said, feeling a rush of urgency. "Let's go," the larger predator commanded, and they broke into a sprint, following the sound deeper into the grove. They weaved through the trees, the underbrush snapping beneath their feet. The cries grew louder, more desperate. As they reached a clearing, they saw the source of the noise, a young fawn trapped in a snare, struggling to free itself. "Help me," it cried, panic evident in its voice. "I can't get out." "Stay calm," Lyra shouted as they rushed toward the fawn. "We're here to help." The larger predator approached the snare cautiously, assessing the situation. "This is a trap set by poachers," it said, eyes narrowing. "We need to be careful." "Can you cut it?" the squirrel asked, its voice tense. "I can try," the predator replied, using its powerful claws to pry at the snare. The fawn thrashed, panic taking hold. "Don't move too much," Lyra urged, kneeling beside the fawn. "You're going to be okay. We'll get you out." The predator worked quickly, its focus unwavering. "Just a little more, there." With a final tug, the snare snapped free, and the fawn stumbled backward, gasping for breath. Thank you," it cried, eyes wide with relief. "Are you hurt?" Lyra asked, scanning the fawn for injuries. "I don't think so, just scared," the fawn replied, trembling. "I was separated from my mother during the fire." "Let's get you back to safety," the larger predator said, glancing around cautiously. "We need to move quickly." Lyra nodded, her heart racing. "Stay close to us. We'll help you find your family." As they made their way back, the fawn stayed close to Lyra, its eyes darting around nervously. "What if the poachers come back?" it asked, voice trembling. "We'll protect you," Lyra assured, her own heart pounding. "We're stronger together, and we won't let anything happen to you." The return journey felt longer than before, the weight of their mission heavy on Lyra's shoulders. Each sound seemed amplified, every rustle of leaves sending a ripple of concern through her. The threat of poachers lingered like a dark cloud overhead, but Lyra pushed the fear aside. They had to stay focused on the task at hand. As they entered the clearing, the sun hung high in the sky, light the gathered animals. The sight brought a sense of relief, and Lyra felt a rush of warmth as her companions welcomed the fawn. "We found another survivor," Lyra called out, her voice filled with pride. The larger predator introduced the fawn to the group, and as the animals surrounded it with gentle reassurance, Lyra couldn't help but smile. The bond among them was undeniable, forged through shared experiences and mutual support. "Thank you for saving me," the fawn said, looking around at the gathering. "I was so scared." "You're safe here," Lyra reassured, her heart swelling with warmth. "We'll help you find your family." "Have you seen any signs of poachers?" the larger predator asked, its tone serious. "We need to remain vigilant." "Not yet," the feathered creature replied, having taken to the sky for a better view. "But we should set up patrols to keep an eye out." "Good idea," the larger predator agreed. "We'll need to be strategic about our defenses." As they began to organize the day's efforts, Lyra felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were not just fighting for survival, they were building a community, a sanctuary for those who had been affected by the fire and the dangers that lurked beyond. With the fawn safely settled among them, the group split into patrols, moving out in different directions to scout the area. Lyra, the squirrel, and the feathered creature formed a team once again, heading toward the eastern part of the grove. As they ventured deeper into the territory, the terrain began to change. The trees grew denser, the underbrush thicker, and the air felt charged with a different kind of energy. "Keep your eyes peeled," the squirrel said, its tone serious. "We could stumble upon something dangerous at any moment." They moved cautiously, Lyra leading the way as her senses heightened. The forest seemed alive, yet eerily quiet. Even the usual sounds of rustling leaves and distant calls were muted, heightening the tension in the air. Suddenly, the feathered creature swooped down, landing beside them. "I saw something up ahead," it said, urgency in its voice. "It looks like a camp. There's smoke rising." "A poacher's camp?" Lyra whispered, feeling a chill run down her spine. "Could be," the feathered creature replied. "We should get closer to investigate, but we need to be careful." "Let's go," Lyra said, her heart racing. They moved stealthily through the underbrush, each step calculated as they approached the clearing where the smoke rose. As they crept closer, they saw a crude setup, a small fire pit surrounded by scattered debris, remnants of food and discarded items littering the ground. But what caught Lyra's attention was the sight of a small cage nearby, the sounds of desperate cries echoing from within. "What is that?" the squirrel whispered, eyes wide with shock. Lyra's heart sank as she recognized the voice. "It's another animal trapped inside," she exclaimed, rushing forward to get a better look. "Wait!" the feathered creature called, but it was too late. Lyra pushed through the underbrush and reached the cage, gasping at the sight inside. A small raccoon, eyes wide with fear and desperation, clawed at the bars. "Help me, please," it cried, voice shaking. "Don't worry, we're going to get you out," Lyra reassured, her heart racing. She turned to the others, eyes blazing with determination. "We have to free it." "Do you think we can?" the squirrel asked, glancing around nervously. "What if the poachers come back?" "We can't leave it here," Lyra insisted. "We have to try." The feathered creature nodded, flapping its wings in resolve. "I'll keep watch. If I see anyone coming, I'll warn you." "Okay," Lyra said, feeling the weight of the decision. "Let's do this." They moved cautiously toward the cage, and the larger predator worked quickly to assess how it was secured. "These bars are old but sturdy," it said, its voice low. "We need to create enough force to break them." "Let's try pushing together," Lyra suggested. "On 3. 1, 2, 3. With all their strength combined, they pushed against the cage. The metal groaned but held firm. They tried again, gritting their teeth as they exerted all their effort. The raccoon's eyes glistened with hope, and Lyra felt a surge of determination. "Keep going," she urged. "We can do this." With a final heave, the cage door swung open with a resounding clang. The small raccoon tumbled out, wide-eyed and trembling. Thank you," it cried, scrambling to its feet. Lyra knelt beside it, her heart racing with relief. "You're safe now. We found you just in time." The raccoon looked around, taking in the faces of its rescuers. "I thought I'd never get out of there. I was so scared. I didn't know what they were going to do to me." "You're part of our community now," the larger predator said firmly, its voice steady. "We'll protect you. You don't have to worry about those poachers anymore." "What do we do about them?" the squirrel asked, glancing nervously around the clearing. "They could come back at any moment." "We need to alert the others," the feathered creature suggested, its wings twitching with anxiety. "If we stay here too long, we'll be vulnerable." Lyra nodded. "Let's head back to the clearing. We can regroup and come up with a plan." As they made their way back, the raccoon stayed close to Lyra, eyes darting nervously at every sound. "I was hiding in the trees when the fire broke out," it explained, its voice shaky. "I saw the poachers setting traps, and I thought I could escape, but I got caught instead." "Don't worry," Lyra reassured. "We're all in this together now. You're not alone anymore." When they returned to the clearing, the atmosphere buzzed with activity. Creatures were gathered in small groups, discussing strategies and reinforcing the barrier. The larger predator stepped forward to address the gathering. "Listen up," it called, drawing attention. "We've encountered poachers in the northern part of the grove. They're setting traps, and we need to be prepared." A ripple of concern swept through the crowd. "What do we do?" a rabbit asked, ears perked in alarm. "We need to take a stand," the larger predator replied. "We can't allow them to harm any more of our friends. We'll form patrols to scout the area, but we need everyone to stay vigilant." "I can fly overhead and keep watch," the feathered creature volunteered, wings flapping eagerly. "I'll signal if I see anything suspicious." "Good idea," the predator replied. "We'll need eyes in the sky. The rest of us will patrol the ground, focusing on areas where we've seen traps." Lyra felt a surge of determination. "I want to help with the ground patrol," she said, stepping forward. "We can't let fear stop us. We need to protect our home." The raccoon nodded, its eyes brightening. "I'll help too. I know some of the hiding spots in the grove." "Then it's settled," the larger predator said. "Let's gather supplies and prepare for the patrols. We need to be ready for anything." As the animals spread out to gather resources, Lyra felt a sense of unity growing among them. Each creature brought its unique skills, and together they formed a formidable force. She could see the determination in their eyes, a shared commitment to protect their community. After gathering supplies, a few branches for makeshift weapons, some leaves for camouflage, they set off in groups. Lyra led her team, which included the raccoon, the squirrel, and a few other brave animals. As they moved through the grove, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The forest felt different now, shadows lengthening as the sun dipped lower in the sky. Every rustle and crack seemed amplified, heightening their awareness of the lurking danger. "Stay close," Lyra instructed, her heart pounding in her chest. "We have to keep an eye out for any traps." They moved in silence, scanning the ground for signs of danger. The trees stood tall and silent around them, remnants of the fire still visible in the charred bark and scorched earth. Suddenly, the raccoon stopped, raising its paw. "Over there, I see something shiny." Lyra followed its gaze and spotted a glint of metal half buried in the dirt. "That must be a trap," she said, moving closer to investigate. Cautiously, she approached the glinting object, bending down to examine it. It was a metal snare, rusted but still capable of ensnaring anything that stepped into its path. "We need to mark this," she said, glancing back at her team. "We can't let anyone else fall into it." The squirrel darted off to find a stick, while the raccoon carefully circled the trap. "I'll keep watch," it said, its voice tense. As the squirrel returned with a long twig, Lyra carefully marked the area, making sure the trap was visible from a distance. "We need to alert the others," she said. "They'll want to know where these traps are hidden." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the trees, causing everyone to jump. "What was that?" the squirrel squeaked, eyes wide with fear. "Stay low," Lyra commanded, instinctively crouching down. "We need to find out what's happening." The raccoon's eyes darted nervously. It sounded like it came from the direction of the clearing. "Let's go," Lyra urged, moving swiftly but silently through the underbrush. As they neared the clearing, the noise grew louder, punctuated by shouts and the frantic rustling of leaves. Lyra's heart raced as she pushed through the final barrier of branches and entered the scene. What she saw left her breathless. The clearing was in disarray. Several animals were scattered, some standing guard while others were frantically moving about. In the center of it all, a group of poachers had breached their defenses. "They're here!" the larger predator shouted, rallying the gathered creatures. "We need to defend our home." Lyra's instincts kicked in, adrenaline surging through her veins. "We can't let them take anyone," she shouted, glancing around for a weapon. She grabbed a sturdy branch and raised it high. "We fight together." The animals rallied around her, their determination ignited by her words. "For our home," the feathered creature called out, flying above them to scout the situation. The poachers were attempting to capture a group of smaller animals, their nets flying through the air. Lyra felt a surge of rage and fear. "We need to create a distraction," she shouted, glancing at the raccoon. "Can you sneak behind them?" "Yeah, I can do that," the raccoon replied, nodding vigorously. "Good. While you do that, we'll try to push them back," Lyra instructed. "On 3. "Let's go," the larger predator added, and they charged forward together, shouting as they approached the poachers. The poachers turned, surprised by the sudden onslaught. "What the?" one of them shouted before Lyra and her friends reached them. With a fierce cry, Lyra swung her branch, hitting the nearest poacher in the leg. The poacher stumbled, cursing, as the animals pressed forward. The raccoon darted around the edges, seeking a way to disrupt the poacher's efforts. "Stay focused," the larger predator roared, charging at one of the poachers and knocking them off balance. The clearing erupted into chaos as the animals fought back, refusing to back down. Lyra felt a mix of fear and exhilaration as they pushed against the poachers. "We can do this," she shouted, rallying her friends. "Together." The feathered creature swooped down, distracting another poacher by fluttering around their head. "Over here, you'll never catch me," it taunted, its laughter echoing in the chaos. As the raccoon made its move, it spotted an opening. With swift precision, it darted behind the poachers, knocking over a bucket of supplies that sent nets and tools scattering across the ground. "Now," Lyra shouted, seeing the moment of confusion. They pressed forward, using the chaos to their advantage. The larger predator lunged at a poacher, pushing them back as the others rallied around. The fight felt like an eternity, each moment stretching into the next. Lyra could hear her heart pounding in her ears, the sounds of struggle and shouts surrounding her. But she felt alive, fighting for her friend, for her home. Finally, the tide began to turn. The poachers, caught off guard by the sheer determination of the animals, started to retreat. "Get back, we're leaving," one of them shouted, grabbing their gear and stumbling back into the forest. Lyra watched as the last of the poachers disappeared into the trees, the adrenaline slowly ebbing away. The clearing fell silent, the animals catching their breath and looking around at one another. "We did it," the raccoon exclaimed, its eyes wide with disbelief. "Together?" the squirrel added, hopping excitedly. Lyra felt a wave of relief wash over her. They had defended their home. "We fought for each other," she said, her voice steady, "and we stood strong." The larger predator nodded, surveying the scene. "We need to reinforce our defenses and ensure there are no more traps. This isn't over yet." Lyra nodded in agreement, a sense of determination igniting within her. "We'll rebuild and make our home even stronger. We won't let fear dictate our lives." As they began to regroup, Lyra looked around at her friends. Their faces reflected a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm golden glow across the clearing. It felt like a moment of respite after the chaos, a breath drawn between the tensions of the past and the uncertainties of the future. Lyra stood amidst her friends, the adrenaline of battle slowly fading, but the fire of determination blazing brightly in her chest. "Let's gather everyone," the larger predator said, its voice steady. "We need to assess what just happened and make a plan for the future." Lyra nodded, her heart still racing from the encounter. She watched as animals began to emerge from the surrounding woods, drawn back to the clearing, where the air still buzzed with energy. The raccoon, the squirrel, and the feathered creature clustered nearby, exchanging wide-eyed looks of disbelief. "Did we really just chase off poachers?" the squirrel asked, its voice a mix of awe and exhilaration. "Yes, we did," Lyra said, grinning. "And we can do it again if we need to. But we need to be smart about it." The larger predator gathered everyone's attention, and the clearing gradually quieted down. "Thank you all for your bravery today. We faced a real threat, but we stood together and fought back. We have to ensure that this doesn't happen again." The animals nodded, exchanging glances filled with understanding and resolve. Lyra felt the strength of their unity envelop her, a bond forged in fire and strife. "We need to patrol the outer edges of the grove more diligently," the larger predator continued. "And we should set up a warning system to alert us if anyone approaches. The poachers might come back, and we need to be ready." "Can we build lookout points?" the feathered creature suggested, its wings fluttering with excitement. "If I can spot trouble from above, I can warn everyone before it gets too close." "Great idea," Lyra exclaimed. "We could use some trees as vantage points, and if we have a signal system, we can communicate quickly if we see anything suspicious." "We should gather materials," the larger predator said, eyes scanning the group. "Branches, leaves, anything that can help us build lookouts and barriers." As the animals dispersed to gather supplies, Lyra felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were not just surviving, they were actively reclaiming their home. She joined the raccoon and the squirrel, who were already scouring the forest floor for fallen branches. "What do you think we should focus on first?" the raccoon asked, pausing to catch its breath. "Let's find some sturdy branches for the lookout points," Lyra replied, scanning the area. "We'll also need some smaller twigs for the signal system." The squirrel nodded, its eyes sparkling with determination. "I can climb the trees and look for good spots to build. I'll find the tallest ones to give us the best view." "Perfect," Lyra said, her heart swelling with pride at the teamwork developing among them. They spent the next few hours gathering materials, working in concert as they laughed and shared ideas about their plans. As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, they returned to the clearing, arms full of supplies. The atmosphere was alive with energy as groups of animals discussed their findings and the tasks ahead. "Let's get started on the lookouts," Lyra said, feeling the momentum building. "We can divide into teams to build them in different areas of the grove." The larger predator nodded in agreement. "That's a solid plan. Let's pair up, and we can rotate the lookout shifts as well." The animals quickly formed teams, and Lyra found herself paired with the raccoon. "You and I can work on the northern lookout," she suggested. "We should find a spot that gives us a good view of both the clearing and the path leading into the grove." "Sounds good," the raccoon said, its eyes glinting with enthusiasm. "Let's get to work." As they made their way to the northern edge of the clearing, the sounds of their fellow animals began to fade behind them, leaving only the rustling of leaves and the soft evening breeze. The forest was still and serene, the air filled with the earthy scent of damp soil and the gentle whisper of the wind through the trees. "Here," the raccoon exclaimed, pointing at a sturdy tree that stood tall and proud. Its branches stretched wide, perfect for a lookout point. "We can build a platform up there." Lyra nodded, feeling a surge of excitement. Let's gather some more branches and leaves to create a solid base. Working together, they quickly climbed the tree, carefully balancing as they hoisted branches up to form a platform. The raccoon was nimble, darting back and forth, while Lyra focused on tying the branches together with vines she'd found on the ground. "This is actually kind of fun," the raccoon said, laughing as it swung from a lower branch. "I never thought I'd be doing something like this." "Me neither," Lyra replied, grinning. "But it feels good to be working together to protect our home." After several hours of labor, they stepped back to admire their handiwork. The platform was sturdy, providing a clear view of the clearing below and the pathways that led into the grove. The raccoon climbed onto the platform, testing its stability. "This is perfect," it shouted down, excitement radiating from its voice. "We should set up a signal system next," Lyra suggested, looking around for materials. "If we can use something that can be easily seen from the lookout, we can communicate quickly." "Let's find some bright flowers or leaves," the raccoon replied, hopping down from the platform. "Those will stand out against the green." They set off in search of brightly colored flora, and after a short while, they found patches of vibrant flowers. Lyra carefully collected the blooms, weaving them into a series of signals that could be hung from the lookout. With the lookout complete and the signal system in place, Lyra felt a rush of accomplishment. They descended the tree and headed back toward the clearing, eager to share their progress. As they returned, they saw that other teams were also finishing their lookouts, the grove slowly transforming into a network of watchful eyes. Creatures perched in trees, peering out over the landscape, while others helped reinforce the barriers that surrounded their home. "Great work, everyone," the larger predator called out, pride evident in its tone. "These lookouts will give us a much better chance of spotting trouble before it gets too close." Lyra's heart swelled with pride as she glanced around at the camaraderie that had formed. They were more than just survivors. They were a community united by purpose and determination. "Now that we have our lookouts, we need to establish shifts for the patrols," the larger predator continued. "We'll rotate teams every few hours to keep everyone rested." "I can handle the night watch," the feathered creature volunteered, its wings fluffed up in excitement. "I'm used to being awake at night, and I can keep an eye out from above." "Good call," the predator replied. "And we'll assign other teams to scout the perimeters during the day. We need to know if those poachers are still around." As the discussions continued, Lyra felt a sense of hope budding within her. They had faced adversity and danger, but now they were taking control of their circumstances. Together, they were rebuilding, forging a new foundation for their community. As night fell, the clearing glowed with the soft light of fireflies, light their makeshift barriers and lookouts. Lyra found a spot to sit and catch her breath, reflecting on the day's events. The thrill of battle still lingered in her veins, but it was tempered by the profound connection she felt with her friends. The raccoon joined her, flopping down onto the ground beside her. "What a day! I can't believe we did all that." "It feels surreal," Lyra admitted, her gaze fixed on the stars twinkling above. "But it also feels right. We're making our home safe again." "Do you think the poachers will come back?" the raccoon asked, its voice softening. "I don't know," Lyra replied, feeling a knot of uncertainty tighten in her stomach. "But we'll be ready for them. We're stronger together." As the night deepened, the animals settled into their watch shifts, taking turns at the lookouts and reinforcing the barriers. Lyra joined the patrol for the first shift, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. They positioned themselves in the trees, where they could see far beyond the edges of the grove. The forest was alive with the sounds of night, the distant calls of owls, the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze, and the faint chirping of crickets. Lyra felt a sense of peace wash over her as she settled into her spot, the stillness enveloping her like a warm blanket. Hours passed, the moonlight filtering through the branches, creating a mosaic of shadows and light. Lyra kept her eyes peeled, scanning the edges of the grove for any signs of movement. She felt a sense of purpose here, a commitment to protect not just herself, but her entire community. Then, just as she was beginning to relax, she spotted a flicker of movement in the distance. A shadow slipped between the trees, and Lyra's heart raced. She nudged the raccoon, who was perched beside her, and whispered urgently, "Did you see that?" The raccoon squinted into the darkness, eyes wide with alarm. "Yeah, it looked like something was moving. Should we alert the others?" Lyra's heart raced as she strained her eyes toward the movement in the distance. The flicker of shadows darting between the trees sent a wave of anxiety coursing through her. "Let's signal the others," she whispered urgently to the raccoon. The raccoon nodded, its expression serious. "I'll go get the feathered creature. They can see better from above." Lyra watched as the raccoon scampered down the tree and disappeared into the underbrush. She kept her gaze fixed on the dark edge of the grove, her instincts honed on the slightest movement. The world around her was silent, the tranquil night now feeling heavy with an unspoken tension. Moments later, the raccoon returned with a feathered creature, who perched gracefully on a nearby branch, eyes sharp and alert. "What's going on?" it asked, head cocked to one side. "I saw something moving in the trees over there," Lyra said, pointing. It looked too big to be a small animal. The feathered creature squinted in the direction she indicated. "Let me take a closer look." With that, it took off into the air, soaring high above the trees, wings spread wide as it scanned the area below. Lyra and the raccoon waited in tense silence, both on high alert. The raccoon fidgeted, shifting from paw to paw. "What do you think it is?" it asked, voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Lyra replied, anxiety knotting in her stomach. "But I have a feeling it's not good." After a few tense moments, the feathered creature swooped down, landing lightly on a nearby branch. "There are two figures moving through the trees," it reported, eyes glinting in the moonlight. "They're too big to be regular forest animals." Lyra's heart sank. "Poachers." "Could be," the feathered creature replied, wings ruffling. "They're definitely not friendly. They're equipped with nets and traps." "Then we need to alert everyone," Lyra exclaimed, adrenaline spiking. "We can't let them get any closer." The raccoon nodded vigorously, its earlier bravado now replaced with urgency. "I'll help you signal." Lyra and the raccoon scrambled down the tree, and Lyra quickly gathered some bright flowers they had woven into the lookout signal earlier. "Let's hang these up so everyone knows to be ready." The two worked quickly, tying the flowers to branches in visible spots, while glancing nervously toward the movement in the trees. Each second felt like an eternity, and Lyra felt a chill creeping up her spine. As they hung the last flower, the feathered creature returned to the air, hovering above them. "They're moving closer," it called down. "We need to act fast." "Let's get everyone into position," Lyra shouted, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. "We'll form a perimeter around the clearing. If they try to come in, we'll be ready." The three of them dashed back toward the main clearing, where other animals were still on their watch shifts. Lyra's heart raced as she called out, "Everyone! We have poachers approaching from the north. Get into position." The animals sprang into action, their eyes widening with determination. The larger predator emerged from the shadows, its expression fierce and resolute. "What's happening?" it asked, voice low but commanding. "Two figures are moving through the trees, armed with nets," Lyra explained, panting slightly. "We need to set a trap of our own." "Right," the larger predator said, glancing at the gathering animals. "We'll split into two groups, one to flank them from the sides, and the other to create a distraction." "I'll take the distraction," the feathered creature volunteered, wings flapping in excitement. "I can lure them into a trap." "Good idea," the larger predator agreed. "Lyra, you lead the group that will flank them from the right. We need to catch them off guard." As they quickly organized into teams, Lyra felt a surge of adrenaline wash over her. The fear that had gripped her moments earlier transformed into a fierce determination. They were ready to fight for their home again. "Let's move," Lyra shouted, her voice steady as she led her group toward the thickest part of the trees. They moved quietly, each animal understanding the weight of the moment. The forest, once peaceful and calm, now thrummed with anticipation. As they neared the edge of the grove, Lyra could see the silhouettes of the poachers in the distance, the dim moonlight glinting off the metallic edges of their traps. Her heart pounded as she motioned for her team to stay low, creeping closer to get a better look. "Remember," she whispered, "we need to wait for the signal from the feathered creature before we move in. We catch them off guard, and we can scare them away." The animals nodded, their eyes filled with determination. The tension in the air was palpable, every rustle and shift making Lyra's pulse quicken. Minutes passed, and the sound of the forest seemed to fade away. Lyra focused on the poachers, who were now discussing their plans in low voices. "We'll set the traps near the clearing," one of them said. "The small animals won't stand a chance." Lyra clenched her teeth, anger boiling within her. "Not if we have anything to say about it," she murmured under her breath. Suddenly, a loud screech broke the silence. The feathered creature swooped down from above, darting between the trees, drawing the attention of the poachers. "Hey, over here," it called, its voice loud and taunting. "You'll never catch me." The poachers turned, startled, and Lyra saw her opportunity. "Now," she shouted, and her team surged forward, charging toward the distracted poachers. The surprise on the poachers' faces was instant. They scrambled, looking around frantically, but it was too late. Lyra led the charge, rushing toward the nearest poacher, who was still trying to recover from the shock. With a fierce cry, she lunged at the poacher, swiping her branch with all her strength. It connected with a solid thud, knocking the poacher off balance. The poacher stumbled back, eyes wide with disbelief as the other animals joined the fray. "Get them!" the larger predator roared, rallying the group as they surrounded the poachers. The chaos unfolded as animals swarmed, darting in and out, using their speed and agility to their advantage. The feathered creature circled overhead, continuing to taunt the poachers, drawing them further into the clearing. "You're not going to catch me. You're too slow," it cried, its voice echoing through the trees. Lyra felt a surge of energy as she pressed forward, determined to protect her home. The poachers were clearly outmatched, their panic rising as the realization hit them. They were surrounded, and there was nowhere to run. One of the poachers attempted to swing a net, but the raccoon dodged effortlessly, nimbly weaving through the throng of animals. "You'll have to do better than that," it taunted, darting past with a playful leap. Lyra could see the fear in the poachers' eyes as they began to back away, desperately trying to regroup. "We can't let them escape," she shouted, rallying her friends. "We need to push them out of the grove." The larger predator roared, "Stay strong, they're not getting away this time." The unity among the animals fueled their resolve, their fear transforming into a fierce determination. The poachers, realizing they were cornered, began to retreat, stumbling over their own equipment in a frantic attempt to escape. "Let's get out of here," one of them shouted, scrambling toward the trees. "No, we can't let them," Lyra yelled, charging forward with renewed energy. She swung her branch again, striking at the ground near the fleeing poachers to block their path. The feathered creature swooped low, diving toward the poachers, flapping its wings with force. "You won't get away that easily," it called, a gleam of triumph in its eyes. The poachers stumbled, fear evident on their faces. They glanced back at the gathering animals, realizing they had underestimated their strength and unity. "We need to leave, now," one of them shouted. With a final push, Lyra and her friends surged forward, forcing the poachers back into the darkness of the trees. They chased them until they were out of sight, hearts pounding with exhilaration and relief. Finally, as the last of the poachers vanished into the night, the clearing erupted in cheers. "We did it!" the raccoon exclaimed, bouncing with excitement. Lyra felt a rush of joy as she took a deep breath, the adrenaline slowly ebbing away. "We really did," she replied, her voice filled with awe at what they had accomplished together. The larger predator surveyed the clearing, pride shining in its eyes. "This is a testament to our strength as a community. We stood together and defended our home." As the animals celebrated, Lyra felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for her friends and their newfound unity. They had fought not just for survival, but for each other. They had forged bonds that would withstand any threat. The celebration in the clearing felt electric, a collective release of tension that had built up during the night. Animals shared their stories of bravery, their eyes sparkling with excitement as they recounted the moments when they had confronted the poachers. Lyra found herself swept up in the joy of the moment, laughter echoing around her like a balm to their previous fears. The larger predator stood at the center, regaling the group with tales of legendary defenses from the past. "You all fought with the courage of lions tonight," it declared, pride shining in its gaze. "Every one of you played a vital role, and we showed those poachers that we will not back down." As the sun began to rise, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Lyra felt a sense of peace settle over her. The grove was alive with the sounds of morning birds chirping, leaves rustling in the gentle breeze, and the soft murmur of water from the nearby stream. She took a moment to absorb the beauty around her, grateful for the safety they had fought for. "Lyra," called the raccoon, bounding over with a mischievous glint in its eye. "You won't believe what I just heard. The other animals are talking about making you a leader." Lyra's heart skipped a beat. "Me? A leader? Why?" "Because you're brave and smart, and you came up with the plan to protect us," the raccoon replied, enthusiasm bubbling over. "Everyone's been inspired by you." Lyra felt a rush of warmth, but also uncertainty. "I didn't do it alone. We all fought together." "Exactly. That's what makes you a great leader. You unite us," the raccoon insisted. Before she could respond, the larger predator approached, its demeanor serious but supportive. "Lyra, may I speak with you for a moment?" It led her to the edge of the clearing, where they could talk without interruption. "About what happened last night," the predator began. "I've been thinking about our future. We faced a real threat, but we overcame it together. We need to harness that strength moving forward." Lyra nodded, her heart racing. "You mean about forming a leadership structure? A council of sorts?" "Yes, exactly," the larger predator said. "We should have a way to organize ourselves, to make decisions for the safety and well-being of our community. And I think you would make a valuable addition to that council." Lyra felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. "What if I'm not good enough? What if I make the wrong decisions?" The predator's eyes softened. "You won't be alone. We'll all support each other. The council will represent everyone's voice, not just one. Your experience and bravery will guide us, but it will be a team effort." Lyra took a deep breath, weighing the enormity of the offer. "Okay, I'm willing to try, if everyone is on board." "Let's call a meeting," the larger predator suggested. "We'll discuss it with the others and see how everyone feels." Returning to the gathering, Lyra felt a new sense of purpose rising within her. She had faced fear and uncertainty, but now she was ready to embrace this challenge for the sake of her friends and their home. As the sun fully rose, light the clearing, the larger predator called for attention. "Everyone, thank you for your bravery last night. We stood strong together against a common enemy, and we need to continue that strength moving forward." The chatter of animals quieted, eyes focused on the predator. "Lyra has shown remarkable leadership and bravery, and I propose that we form a council to help guide our community. It will be a space where everyone's voice is heard, and together we will make decisions that protect our home." Lyra felt her cheeks flush as she heard her name mentioned. She glanced around, catching the supportive nods from her friends, including the raccoon and the feathered creature. "We'll need representatives from different areas of our grove," the predator continued. "This way, every voice can be represented. Who is in favor of this council?" A chorus of agreement rippled through the clearing, cheers erupting from various animals. Lyra's heart soared with hope and determination. This was the moment they would take their fate into their own hands. After the cheers subsided, the larger predator suggested they gather names for potential council members. "We should think of individuals who have shown strong qualities and a commitment to our community," it said. "We'll need to establish trust and collaboration." Lyra took a moment to consider her friends. I think the raccoon would be a great addition. They have a clever mind and always think outside the box. The raccoon puffed up proudly at the mention. I would love to help, it said, bouncing on its feet. The feathered creature should definitely be on the council too, Lyra added. Its perspective from the sky is invaluable. I'm in, the feathered creature chirped enthusiastically, flapping its wings. I can keep watch and gather information from afar. As other animals began to speak up, Lyra felt a sense of camaraderie enveloping them. The clearing buzzed with excitement as they discussed potential members, each animal representing a unique strength that contributed to the collective. Eventually, the larger predator called for order. Let's finalize our initial council members. After that, we can hold regular meetings to assess our progress and discuss any pressing issues. Lyra looked around, soaking in the faces of her friends. What about including someone from the smaller animals too, she suggested. They have different experiences and insights that could be incredibly valuable. A small mouse piped up from the back, voice timid but determined. I'd be honored to represent the smaller animals, it said, eyes shining with hope. We have our own struggles, and I want to ensure we're heard. Perfect, Lyra said, a smile spreading across her face. Your perspective will help us understand all the needs of our community. With a few more nominations, they finalized their initial council. Lyra, the raccoon, the feathered creature, the larger predator, and the small mouse formed the core group, ready to lead their community toward a brighter future. As the day wore on, they began discussing immediate priorities. We need to fortify our defenses, the larger predator said. Now that we've faced the poachers, we need to ensure they can't return. What if we set traps of our own? The raccoon suggested, its eyes sparkling with mischief. We could use their nets against them. Good thinking, Lyra replied. But we should also make sure we're alert and prepared. A warning system would help us keep track of any intruders. The feathered creature chimed in, I can help with lookout spots, and maybe I can fly out to monitor areas beyond our grove to spot trouble before it arrives. As ideas flowed, the energy in the clearing pulsed with a sense of purpose. They divided tasks and set plans in motion, Lyra feeling invigorated by the teamwork and determination surrounding her. Let's meet back here tomorrow to check on our progress, she suggested. We can see how everyone feels and adjust our plans as needed. With agreement from the council, they dispersed, each member carrying the weight of their new roles. Lyra walked with the raccoon and the feathered creature, feeling a sense of pride in the bond they had forged. That was incredible, the raccoon said, grinning. I can't believe we're actually doing this. I know, Lyra replied, her heart swelling with excitement. It feels like we're finally taking control of our lives. As they walked, Lyra began to reflect on the enormity of their responsibilities. But what if we make mistakes, she mused, her brow furrowing. The feathered creature looked at her with understanding. Mistakes are part of the process, Lyra. We're all learning together. The important thing is to communicate openly and support each other. The raccoon nodded vigorously. Yeah, we'll figure it out as we go along. Together. As they reached the edge of the grove, Lyra felt a warmth blossom in her chest. They were no longer just a group of survivors. They were a community with purpose and direction. They had each other's backs, and that made all the difference. The next few days were filled with a whirlwind of activity as they put their plans into action. The council met regularly to discuss their progress, tackle any emerging issues, and keep lines of communication open among the animals. They set traps and barriers around the grove, using materials from the forest to create makeshift defenses. The raccoon's ingenuity shone as it devised clever methods to deter intruders. We can create obstacles that make it hard for them to approach the clearing, it said, excitement bubbling over. Meanwhile, the feathered creature diligently scouted from above, keeping watch for any signs of trouble. Its keen eyes were invaluable, spotting potential threats from afar. Lyra felt a sense of pride every time the feathered creature reported back with updates, knowing they were better prepared because of it. Everything feels different now, Lyra said one evening as they gathered around a small fire, the sun setting in a vibrant display of colors. We've come so far in such a short time. The larger predator nodded. This is just the beginning, Lyra. We've built a foundation, but we must continue to grow, to adapt, and to support one another. As the days turned into weeks, the community in the grove continued to thrive. The council's meetings became a cornerstone of their newfound unity, a space where ideas flowed freely and everyone's voice mattered. Lyra felt a growing sense of belonging, and with it, a deepening commitment to her friends and their shared future. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of purple and gold, Lyra and the council gathered for their weekly meeting. The air was electric with anticipation as they prepared to discuss their latest achievements and challenges. Today, I spotted a potential threat on the eastern edge of our territory, the feathered creature reported, landing gracefully on a branch above. There's a group of animals gathering, and they seem to be building something. Lyra's brow furrowed with concern. What kind of animals? Are they aggressive? I couldn't tell from a distance, the feathered creature replied. But we should investigate further. They could be a new threat, or they might just be trying to survive like us. The larger predator nodded thoughtfully. We need to approach this carefully. If they are a threat, we don't want to provoke them too soon. But if they mean no harm, we should consider reaching out. Our strength lies in our unity, and we can't forget that. The raccoon chimed in. Let's send a small group to observe them first. We can gather information before making any decisions. Good idea, Lyra said. I'll go with you. We need to understand their intentions before we act. As the council discussed the plan, Lyra felt a flicker of anxiety. The grove had become a sanctuary for them, a refuge from the chaos of the outside world. The thought of a new group intruding on their home made her uneasy. The next morning, Lyra, the raccoon, and the feathered creature set out toward the eastern edge of their territory. They moved cautiously, keeping to the shadows as they approached the area where the other animals were gathering. The closer they got, the clearer the sounds of construction became: rustling leaves, snapping twigs, and a low murmur of voices. Stay low, Lyra whispered, glancing at her companions. We don't want to be seen until we know more. They crept closer, hiding behind thick bushes. As they peered through the leaves, Lyra's heart raced. In the clearing ahead, a group of animals was indeed building something, a large structure made of branches and leaves, resembling a den but larger than anything she had seen before. A mix of species worked together: deer, rabbits, and even a few birds perched overhead, overseeing the work. This is different, the raccoon murmured, eyes wide with curiosity. They're collaborating, just like us. Yeah, but what are they building? Lyra replied, her mind racing with questions. And why here? As they observed, Lyra noticed a particular deer standing apart from the rest, its posture tense and alert. It seemed to be the leader of this group, directing the others with a commanding presence. What do you think it wants? The feathered creature asked, flapping its wings slightly, trying to get a better view. I don't know, Lyra admitted, but we should get closer and hear what they're saying. Creeping forward, they pressed their ears against the thick foliage, straining to listen. The sounds of construction faded as the deer began to speak, its voice carrying a weight that caught Lyra's attention. We cannot let fear dictate our actions, the deer declared, its tone resolute. If we stay united, we can build a safe haven for all animals. We've faced threats in the past, but we can overcome them by working together. Lyra exchanged glances with the raccoon and the feathered creature, their expressions a mix of surprise and intrigue. This deer spoke of unity, just like they had. Do you think they're talking about us? The raccoon whispered. Maybe they've heard of our community. Could be, Lyra replied. But we need to understand their intentions fully before we approach. As the deer continued to speak, the animals around it listened intently. Our goal is to create a sanctuary, a place where all creatures can feel safe. We've faced too many threats alone. It's time to change that. Lyra felt a surge of hope. They want the same thing we do, she said softly. Maybe we could join forces. But just as that thought crossed her mind, another voice emerged from the crowd, sharp and skeptical. And what if we let them in, only to find they're like the poachers? We can't trust outsiders. A chill swept through Lyra. Doubt lingered in the air, and she could see the tension rising among the animals. We should keep listening, she urged, trying to gauge the dynamics at play. Every time we've tried to reach out, it's backfired, the skeptical voice continued. We need to protect what we've built, not risk it for the unknown. The deer responded with a calmness that impressed Lyra. I understand your concerns, but we cannot allow fear to dictate our actions. We have to consider that not every group will threaten us. We can be stronger together. Lyra's heart pounded as she realized they needed to make a decision. We should go in, she said, her voice steady despite the uncertainty swirling inside her. We can't just stand back and listen forever. If they truly mean well, we'll find common ground. The raccoon looked worried. What if they don't? We'll be exposing ourselves. I know it's risky, Lyra admitted, but we've faced danger before, and if we approach with an open heart, we might find allies instead of enemies. After a moment's deliberation, the feathered creature nodded in agreement. We'll go together. We'll approach them as friends. With determination fueling their steps, Lyra led the way out from the bushes and into the clearing. As they emerged, the animals turned to face them, eyes wide with surprise. The deer looked particularly taken aback, but quickly regained its composure. Who are you? The deer asked, its tone cautious but not hostile. We're from the grove nearby, Lyra replied, trying to keep her voice steady. We heard you speaking about building a sanctuary and wanted to learn more. We believe in the same ideals of unity and safety for all animals. The skeptical animal, a scruffy rabbit with wary eyes, stepped forward. You expect us to trust you just because you say you want the same thing? How do we know you're not like the poachers? Lyra felt a wave of disappointment but didn't back down. I understand your concern. Trust is earned, not given freely. But we've fought to protect our home, just as you are. We could share knowledge, resources, and skills to build something even greater together. The deer glanced between Lyra and the skeptical rabbit, its expression contemplative. What do you propose? Let's start with a conversation, Lyra suggested, her heart racing. We can share our stories, our challenges, and our successes. If we're honest with each other, we can figure out how to move forward. The deer nodded slowly, and the rabbit remained skeptical but quiet. All right, the deer said, we'll listen. But if this is a ruse, you'll regret it. Lyra felt a rush of relief, but also knew the importance of the moment. Thank you. I promise we're here with good intentions. As the four of them gathered in a circle, Lyra introduced her companions, sharing their strengths and experiences. The raccoon talked animatedly about their clever tricks and ideas, while the feathered creature spoke of its scouting abilities and keen eyesight. Slowly, the tension in the air began to ease. The deer shared its vision for the sanctuary, explaining how it wanted to create a safe space where all animals could coexist, free from the threats that had plagued them. As they talked, Lyra felt a connection forming, a bridge being built between their two communities. The rabbit's skepticism gradually faded as it listened to the sincerity in their voices, and other animals began to chime in, sharing their own fears and hopes. Hours passed as they exchanged stories, and as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the clearing, a sense of camaraderie blossomed between the groups. We may have started as strangers, the deer said, but I feel there's potential for something greater here. If we can unite, we can build a true sanctuary for all of us. Lyra's heart soared. Yes, together, we can create a community that stands strong against any threat. We've faced challenges before, and this could be our greatest triumph. The rabbit, now looking more relaxed, added, I think we should organize a combined meeting to discuss how we can help each other. If we truly want to build something meaningful, we need everyone involved. Agreed, the deer said. Let's set a date for our first joint gathering. We'll bring more animals from both sides to solidify our alliance." As they concluded their meeting, Lyra felt a profound sense of hope. They were no longer just two groups of animals. They were on the cusp of forming something greater, a united front against the uncertainties of the world outside their grove. The raccoon grinned widely as they walked back home. "I can't believe how well that went. We've made allies." The days following the meeting with the deer and the other animals were filled with a flurry of activity. The council convened often, brainstorming ways to solidify their new alliance and ensure that both communities could thrive together. Lyra felt a sense of purpose as she worked alongside her friends, each meeting further strengthening the bonds they had forged. "Okay, everyone," the larger predator said one afternoon as they gathered in the clearing. "We need to plan our first joint gathering. This is a crucial opportunity to present a united front and build trust between our communities." Lyra, the raccoon, and the feathered creature nodded enthusiastically. "We should find a neutral location," Lyra suggested. "Somewhere that feels safe for both sides, like the old oak grove by the river." "That's a great idea," the raccoon replied, its eyes shining. "It's spacious, and everyone can gather there without feeling crowded." "I can scout the area to ensure there are no threats," the feathered creature offered, wings flapping lightly. "It will give us peace of mind." "Perfect," the larger predator said, approval evident in its tone. "Let's divide our tasks. We'll need to gather food, create a welcoming environment, and prepare to share our stories." The group broke into smaller teams, each with a specific focus. Lyra found herself working with a raccoon and the smaller mouse to gather food. They spent the day collecting berries, nuts, and other edible treasures from the surrounding woods. As they worked, the raccoon turned to Lyra, a gleam of mischief in its eyes. "You know, if we're making a feast, we should throw in some of my famous berry pie. It'll be the talk of the gathering." Lyra laughed, her spirits lifted by the raccoon's enthusiasm. "I'm sure everyone would love that. Let's make sure we gather enough berries to whip up a batch." After hours of foraging, they returned to the grove, their arms laden with their spoils. The mouse beamed with pride as they laid everything out. "This is going to be the best feast ever," it squeaked, eyes sparkling. Meanwhile, the larger predator and the feathered creature scouted the oak grove. The feathered creature flew high, surveying the area, while the larger predator kept a watchful eye on the ground. They reported back to the council that the location was safe, and they began discussing how to arrange seating and decorations to create a welcoming atmosphere. On the day of the gathering, excitement buzzed in the air. Lyra arrived early, helping set up the clearing. They arranged logs and stones in a circle, creating a natural seating area, and decorated with wildflowers and greenery, making the space feel alive and inviting. As more animals began to arrive, the atmosphere grew electric with anticipation. Lyra could see her friends from the grove mingling with the new arrivals, laughter and chatter filling the air. The raccoon darted around, offering bites of the berry pie, which quickly became a hit. "Lyra," called the feathered creature, landing gracefully beside her. "You need to see this." Following its lead, Lyra turned to find the deer from their previous meeting standing with its group, welcoming the animals from her grove with open arms. The skeptical rabbit was there too, its posture relaxed and friendly. "Thank you all for coming," the deer began, its voice steady and warm. "Today marks a new beginning for us all. Together, we can create a sanctuary where we can thrive, share knowledge, and protect one another." The animals erupted into cheers, a wave of excitement washing over the gathering. Lyra felt her heart swell with pride and hope. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. As the initial excitement settled, the larger predator stepped forward. "Let's share our stories. Each of us has faced struggles, but together, we can overcome any challenge. Who would like to go first?" Lyra glanced around, noticing several animals shifting nervously. The raccoon nudged her gently. "You should go, Lyra. You're a natural storyteller." With her heart racing, Lyra took a deep breath and stepped into the center of the circle. "I'll start," she said, her voice gaining strength. My friends and I faced many challenges in our grove, from food shortages to threats from poachers. We fought to protect our home and each other. But in doing so, we learned the power of unity. She shared tales of their struggles, the battles they fought, and the moments of triumph that brought them closer together. As she spoke, she could see her friends nodding, their pride reflecting back at her. When she finished, the crowd erupted into applause. Next, the deer shared its story, recounting the hardships its community faced. We've battled against droughts and predators, often feeling alone. But we've learned that together we can create a safe space for all of us, where no one has to struggle alone. As more animals took turns sharing their experiences, a sense of solidarity began to weave through the gathering. Each story resonated with the others, echoing the struggles of survival, hope, and the yearning for safety. When the rabbit stepped forward, its voice trembled slightly. I was skeptical at first, it admitted. I feared that trusting others would only lead to more heartache. But hearing your stories has shown me that we're not alone in our struggles. Together, we can build something greater. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm golden light over the gathering, the energy shifted. The air buzzed with a palpable sense of connection and purpose. Finally, the larger predator took its place at the center. We've shared our stories today, but now let's focus on what comes next. We have the opportunity to build a sanctuary for all of us. We must identify our strengths and how we can support each other. A discussion erupted as animals from both communities began to share their skills and resources. The raccoon proposed sharing foraging techniques, while the feathered creature offered to keep watch over the new sanctuary. Lyra watched in awe as the two groups began to merge, ideas flowing freely between them. It was more than just a gathering. It was the birth of a new community. As the sun finally set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, the gathering transitioned into a celebration. Animals danced and played, the sound of laughter echoing through the grove. Lyra found herself caught up in the joyous spirit, twirling with the raccoon as they celebrated their newfound unity. "Can you believe this?" the raccoon exclaimed, breathless from laughter. "We've created something beautiful." Lyra nodded, a smile lighting up her face. "It's just the beginning. We have so much potential together." As the festivities continued, Lyra took a moment to step back and observe the scene before her. Animals from both communities were mingling, sharing food, stories, and laughter. It was a vision of the future she had always hoped for, a place where everyone could belong. "Lyra," called the feathered creature, gliding down to her side. "Look at them. This is incredible." "I know," she replied, her heart swelling with gratitude. "We've built a community of trust, and it's all happening right before our eyes." As the night deepened, the gathering began to wind down. Lyra felt a gentle tug on her heart as she realized they had come so far, but the journey was just beginning. They would face challenges ahead, no doubt, but they were no longer alone. When the final songs were sung and the last scraps of food were shared, Lyra gathered with the council under the grand oak tree. The larger predator spoke first. "This gathering has proven that we are stronger together. Let's commit to continuing this partnership, for our safety and our future." Lyra nodded in agreement. "We can establish regular meetings to check in on each other, share resources, and build our sanctuary. Together, we'll create a home where everyone is welcome." As they discussed the logistics of their plans, Lyra felt a wave of excitement wash over her. They were embarking on an adventure that would reshape their lives, a journey filled with promise and hope. The council finalized their plans, deciding on regular meetings and collaborative projects to build their sanctuary. They would begin constructing shelters, planting food sources, and sharing skills to ensure their survival. As the moon rose high in the sky, Lyra glanced around at her friends and newfound allies, their faces light by the soft light. The warmth of their shared stories and dreams filled the air, creating an unbreakable bond among them. "I can't wait to see what we can build together," Lyra said, her heart brimming with optimism. The raccoon nudged her playfully. "With your leadership and our teamwork, we'll create a place that feels like home for everyone." As they settled into the night, Lyra closed her eyes, embracing the peace that surrounded her. The challenges they had faced were far from over, but now they stood united. Together, they would face whatever came next, forging a future filled with hope, safety, and community. The dawn of a new chapter awaited them, and with it, the promise of a sanctuary where every creature could thrive. As the first rays of sunlight filtered through the trees, Lyra awoke with renewed energy. The gathering had sparked a fire within her, and she felt a sense of urgency to begin their plans for the sanctuary. The memories of shared laughter and stories from the night before replayed in her mind, filling her with hope and determination. After a quick breakfast, Lyra gathered the council to discuss the day's tasks. "Today is the start of something amazing," she announced, her voice steady. "We need to divide our efforts to maximize productivity. Let's establish teams for building, foraging, and scouting." The larger predator nodded in agreement. "I can lead the building team. We need to construct shelters first. Those will provide us with protection and a sense of security as we expand." "I'll take the foraging team," the raccoon chimed in. "We'll gather food and resources to sustain us while we work." Lyra looked at the feathered creature. "And I think it's important to have you lead the scouting team. We need to ensure the area is safe and to keep an eye on any potential threats." The feathered creature flapped its wings excitedly. "I'll keep a lookout from above. I can scout for food sources as well as any potential dangers." With their roles established, the council split into teams, each brimming with enthusiasm. Lyra felt a thrill of anticipation as she led the building team to the clearing where they planned to construct their first shelters. The air was crisp, and the sounds of the forest came alive with birdsong and rustling leaves. As they arrived at the designated area, Lyra surveyed the landscape. The clearing was abundant with strong branches and thick foliage ideal for building. "Let's gather materials and start planning our shelters," she instructed. "We need to work together to make these structures strong and durable." The group set to work, gathering branches, leaves, and other natural materials. Lyra watched as her friends collaborated, their movements synchronized like a well-rehearsed dance. The raccoons scampered around, expertly collecting twigs, while a few deer helped arrange the larger logs. After a few hours, they had gathered enough materials to begin constructing their first shelter. Lyra took the lead, explaining her vision for a sturdy frame. "We'll start with a basic structure, then add walls and a roof. This will provide us with protection from the elements and any potential threats." As they worked, Lyra's heart swelled with pride. She could see the community spirit blossoming before her eyes. Everyone was invested in the process, sharing ideas and solutions. The larger predator even offered advice on reinforcing the structure, drawing on its experience. "What about a lookout post?" one of the deer suggested. "If we build it high enough, we can keep an eye out for any approaching dangers." "Great idea," Lyra exclaimed. "Let's incorporate that into our design." As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the team continued to make progress. The sound of laughter and chatter filled the air, creating a warm atmosphere that made the hard work feel lighter. They paused for a moment to admire their progress. A sturdy frame stood tall, ready for walls and a roof. "Time for a break," Lyra announced, wiping the sweat from her brow. "Let's regroup and enjoy some of the food the raccoon has gathered." They gathered in a circle around the shelter, sharing berries, nuts, and the delicious pie the raccoon had baked the day before. As they ate, they discussed their plans for the future and what their new community could achieve together. "I can't believe how far we've come in such a short time," the raccoon said, grinning. "This is just the beginning." Lyra nodded, her eyes shining. "Imagine what we can accomplish as we grow. We'll have a place to call our own, where everyone is safe and can thrive." As they finished their meal, Lyra felt a surge of excitement about their progress. "Let's get back to work. We have so much more to do." With renewed energy, they returned to the shelter, and under Lyra's guidance, they began crafting walls from branches and leaves. The structure took shape quickly, and by the end of the day, They stood before a solid shelter, a testament to their teamwork and determination. Exhausted but elated, they admired their work. "We did it," Lyra exclaimed, her heart soaring. "This is just the first of many shelters we'll build." As evening fell, the group decided to return to the grove for the night. They would resume work in the morning, and Lyra felt a sense of fulfillment as she walked home under the stars. The sanctuary was becoming a reality, and they were laying the groundwork for a brighter future. The next few days unfolded in a whirlwind of activity. Each day, the teams worked diligently, and the sanctuary began to take shape. Shelters rose, gardens were planted, and the bonds between the two communities deepened. One morning, as the sun painted the sky in soft pastels, Lyra awoke to a chorus of excited chatter outside her den. Rushing out, she found the raccoon and the feathered creature engaged in animated conversation. "What's going on?" Lyra asked, her curiosity piqued. "Come see," the raccoon exclaimed, bouncing on its feet. Following them, Lyra arrived at the edge of the clearing and gasped at the sight before her. The deer and its group were gathered around a newly built structure, a beautifully crafted meeting place adorned with flowers and vines. "This is incredible," Lyra marveled. "You built this overnight?" The deer stepped forward, a proud smile on its face. "We wanted to contribute something special to our community, a space for gatherings and meetings. We believe it will help us strengthen our bond even further." Lyra felt a swell of gratitude. "Thank you. This is a perfect addition to our sanctuary. It symbolizes our unity." As they explored the new structure, the raccoon suggested, "We should have our next meeting here. It will make for a wonderful gathering space." "That's a fantastic idea," Lyra agreed. "Let's plan for it this evening. We can share updates on our progress and discuss our next steps." As the sun began to set, animals from both communities gathered in the new meeting place. The atmosphere was filled with excitement and camaraderie. Lyra felt a rush of happiness as she surveyed the crowd, which included both familiar faces and new friends. The larger predator opened the meeting, its voice strong and clear. "Today, we celebrate our accomplishments and the bonds we've formed. This sanctuary is a testament to our resilience and unity." After sharing updates on their individual projects, Lyra felt the time was right to address their future. "We've built something incredible together," she began, her voice steady. "But we must also prepare for the challenges that lie ahead. There are threats in the world that we need to be vigilant against." The raccoon chimed in, "And we need to ensure that everyone feels safe and included in our community. We can't let fear divide us." A hush fell over the crowd as the feathered creature took to the air, circling above. "I'll continue to scout the area. We need to be aware of any potential dangers and stay informed." Lyra nodded, grateful for the creature's commitment. "Let's establish a routine for our scouting efforts. We should designate different animals to keep watch each day, so we're always alert." As discussions continued, the rabbit stood up, looking more confident than before. "I've noticed a change in our communities since we started working together. We've become stronger and more resourceful. Perhaps we should share more of our skills with each other. There's much we can learn." The crowd murmured in agreement, excitement bubbling in the air. Lyra felt invigorated by the idea. "Let's establish skill-sharing sessions. We can teach each other everything from foraging techniques to building skills." The meeting buzzed with energy as they brainstormed how to implement the skill-sharing initiative. Ideas flowed freely, and Lyra felt the weight of responsibility lighten as everyone contributed their thoughts. As the evening progressed, they enjoyed a feast, celebrating their hard work and accomplishments. The sounds of laughter and joyful conversation filled the air, creating an atmosphere of warmth and belonging. As the night drew to a close, Lyra felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her. The sanctuary was no longer just a dream. It was a reality built on collaboration and trust. They were no longer isolated communities. They were a united family. As the moon hung high in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the sanctuary, Lyra stepped away from the crowd for a moment of reflection. She marveled at how far they had come and how much they had achieved in such a short time. Just then, the larger predator joined her, its presence calming. "You've done an incredible job, Lyra. Your leadership has brought us all together." Lyra smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without everyone's support. It's been a true team effort." The predator nodded, gazing out at the gathering. "We're building something special here. It's more than just a sanctuary. It's a place where we can thrive, share, and protect one another." Lyra looked out at her friends, their faces light by the moonlight, and felt a surge of hope. This is just the beginning. We have so much more to accomplish together. The following days passed in a whirlwind of activity. The sanctuary blossomed under the care of its inhabitants, with new shelters sprouting up like wildflowers. The skill-sharing sessions became a highlight of their days, with animals teaching each other invaluable techniques, from building sturdier homes to identifying the best foraging spots. A sense of community flourished, strengthened by mutual respect and cooperation. However, as the sanctuary grew, so did the weight of responsibility on Lyra's shoulders. She knew they had made great strides, but an uneasy feeling lingered in the back of her mind. The world outside their new home still held dangerous predators, scarcity of resources, and the ever-looming threat of poachers who had once driven them into hiding. One morning, as Lyra was organizing supplies for the day, the feathered creature swooped down beside her, its expression serious. "Lyra, I saw something while I was scouting yesterday. There's a group of humans nearby, and they seem to be setting up traps." Lyra's heart sank. "Traps? That's not good. We need to warn everyone immediately." The two rushed to gather the council. As they assembled in the meeting place, Lyra took a deep breath, steeling herself to deliver the news. "Everyone, I have something important to share. The feathered creature spotted a group of humans setting traps nearby. We need to be vigilant and take precautions to protect our sanctuary." A murmur of concern spread through the crowd. The raccoon was the first to speak. "What should we do? Are they dangerous?" "We need to remain calm," Lyra replied, her voice steady. "Our priority should be to protect our home and each other. We can set up patrols to monitor the area and keep watch for any intruders." "I can lead the patrols," the larger predator offered, its tone resolute. "We can establish a rotation so that everyone contributes to keeping the sanctuary safe." "I can keep an eye out from the sky," the feathered creature added. "I'll alert you all if I see anything suspicious." "Great," Lyra nodded, her heart pounding. "Let's also reinforce our shelters. We need to ensure they're secure and hidden from view as much as possible." As they continued to strategize, the atmosphere shifted from one of celebration to cautious determination. Lyra felt a weight on her heart, knowing that their newfound unity was now being tested by external threats. The meeting concluded with a plan in place, but Lyra couldn't shake the sense of unease. As the days passed, the patrols became a regular part of their routine. The larger predator led the groups, and Lyra accompanied them when she could. Each time they ventured out, Lyra's anxiety grew, fueled by the uncertainty of what they might encounter. One afternoon, as they returned from a patrol, the raccoon joined Lyra, its expression thoughtful. "You seem worried. Lyra, is everything okay?" Lyra sighed, glancing around at their sanctuary. I worry about the future. We've built something beautiful here, but what if the humans return? What if they destroy everything we've worked for?" The raccoon nudged her gently. "I understand. But remember, we're not alone anymore. We have each other, and we've proven that we can stand together against challenges." "I know," Lyra replied, appreciating the raccoon's reassurance. "It's just hard to shake this feeling." That evening, during a community gathering, Lyra decided to address her concerns. "I want to talk about the situation with the humans," she began, her voice steady. "I know we've faced challenges before, but this feels different. We need to be prepared for anything." The crowd listened intently as she spoke. "We've built this sanctuary together, and we can't let anything tear us apart. We must remain vigilant and ready to protect our home." As she finished, a small voice piped up from the back. It was the rabbit. "What if we tried to communicate with them instead? Maybe they don't want to harm us." Lyra pondered this suggestion. "It's a possibility, but we need to be cautious. Humans can be unpredictable. We don't want to expose ourselves to danger." "I could scout out their camp and see what they're doing," the feathered creature offered. "If we approach them carefully, we might learn more." "Let's discuss this more before making any decisions," Lyra said, weighing the risks. "For now, let's focus on reinforcing our defenses." As the weeks went by, they implemented more security measures around the sanctuary. They covered the entrances to their shelters with leaves and branches, making them harder to spot from a distance. The larger predator trained others to help keep watch, creating a network of alertness that allowed them to feel more secure. One day, while on patrol, Lyra and the larger predator stumbled upon a trap hidden in the underbrush. "Look at this," the predator said, nudging the trap with its paw. "We need to warn the others to stay away from this area." Lyra felt her heart race as they carefully dismantled the trap, ensuring it wouldn't pose a threat to anyone else. "This is a good reminder of why we need to remain vigilant. If we hadn't found this, it could have hurt someone." As they returned to the sanctuary, Lyra's thoughts drifted to the rabbit's idea of reaching out to the humans. Perhaps there was a way to approach the situation with caution while still protecting their home. That night, she shared her thoughts with the council. "I think we should consider a cautious approach to the humans," Lyra said, her voice steady. "We could send a small group to observe them and try to communicate. If they mean no harm, we might be able to establish some sort of understanding." The raccoon looked skeptical. "But what if they don't respond well? We can't risk our safety." "I understand the concern," Lyra replied, her heart pounding. "But if we remain in hiding, we'll never know their intentions. It could lead to more conflict down the line." After much discussion, they decided to form a small team that would attempt to observe the humans. Lyra, the raccoon, and the feathered creature volunteered, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. The following day, they set off toward the humans' camp. As they moved cautiously through the underbrush, Lyra felt a surge of determination. They were stepping into the unknown, but the potential for understanding and peace was worth the risk. As they approached the clearing where the humans had set up camp, Lyra held her breath. They hid behind a thicket, peering out at the scene before them. The humans were busy setting up their equipment, seemingly unaware of the animals watching them. "What do you see?" the raccoon whispered, its eyes wide. The feathered creature took to the air, circling above to get a better view. They seemed focused on their tasks. "I don't see any traps right now, but they do have a few tools scattered around." "Let's move closer," Lyra suggested, feeling a surge of courage. "We need to learn more about what they're doing." They crept through the underbrush, careful to remain hidden. As they neared the edge of the clearing, Lyra's heart raced. She could hear snippets of conversation among the humans, but the words were muffled. "What if they're friendly?" the raccoon asked, glancing nervously at Lyra. "We need to be cautious," Lyra reminded them. "Let's keep listening for now." As they listened, they caught bits of information that piqued their interest. The humans talked about wildlife conservation, mentioning their desire to protect the very creatures that lived in the sanctuary. It seemed that their presence was tied to a research project aimed at understanding the local ecosystem. "Maybe they're not a threat after all," the feathered creature mused, landing beside Lyra. "They sound like they want to help." Lyra's heart raced with hope. "What if we approach them? We could explain our presence and show them our sanctuary." The raccoon looked hesitant. "But what if they react poorly? We could be putting ourselves at risk." "We have to take that chance," Lyra said firmly. "If we don't, we may never know their true intentions." With a mix of excitement and anxiety, they decided to get closer, hoping to make contact. They approached the edge of the camp, where the humans were gathered around a small fire. Lyra took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. "Let's go," she whispered, and they stepped into the clearing. The humans paused, surprised to see the trio of animals before them. Lyra felt her heart race as they exchanged uncertain glances. "Hello," she called, trying to project confidence despite her nerves. "We're not here to harm you." The humans stared in astonishment, unsure of how to react. One of them, a young woman with curly hair, took a cautious step forward. "Are you talking?" "We can understand you," Lyra replied, her voice steady. "We live in the nearby sanctuary, and we wanted to understand why you're here." The woman exchanged glances with her companions, a mixture of curiosity and confusion on their faces. "We're researchers," she explained. "We're studying the local wildlife and trying to learn how to protect it better." Lyra felt a surge of relief. "So you're not here to harm us?" "No, not at all," the woman replied, her tone earnest. "We want to help. We've been setting up equipment to monitor the ecosystem." As the words hung in the air, Lyra felt a wave of relief wash over her. The tension that had built over weeks began to dissipate. She took a step closer, the raccoon and the feathered creature flanking her. "Then we might have much to discuss," she said, her voice steady. "We've built a sanctuary nearby, and we're striving to create a safe haven for all creatures." The young woman's eyes widened with interest. "A sanctuary? That sounds incredible. We'd love to learn more about it. Our goal is to understand the ecosystem better, and working with you could be key." Lyra nodded, excitement bubbling within her. "We've worked hard to create a safe place for everyone, but we've also faced challenges, especially with traps set by humans. We wanted to know if there's a way to coexist peacefully." The humans exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from confusion to understanding. "We had no idea that our actions were causing harm," the woman said. "We're here to study and help, not to hurt." Encouraged by her words, Lyra took a deep breath. "Perhaps we could collaborate. You could help us learn more about your research, and we can share insights about the wildlife in the area. Together, we can create a plan that benefits both sides." The woman smiled, her enthusiasm infectious. "That sounds like a wonderful idea. If we can work together, we can make a real difference." Over the next few hours, the animals and humans exchanged stories, insights, and ideas. They discussed the sanctuary, the wildlife they had seen, and the importance of preserving the ecosystem. Lyra felt a sense of hope blooming within her as they forged this unexpected alliance. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Lyra stood with the humans at the edge of the clearing. "This is just the beginning," she said, her heart full. "Together, we can create a future where both humans and wildlife thrive." With newfound camaraderie, they agreed to meet regularly, establishing a partnership based on trust and respect. The humans would share their research methods and findings, while Lyra and her friends would educate them about the challenges faced by wildlife. As the days turned into weeks, the bond between the sanctuary's inhabitants and the researchers deepened. Together, they worked to remove traps, educate the local human population about wildlife conservation, and foster a sense of respect for all living creatures. Lyra watched with pride as their sanctuary flourished. More animals joined their community, drawn by the promise of safety and belonging. They constructed new shelters, cultivated gardens, and shared skills, creating a vibrant tapestry of life that radiated warmth and unity. One evening, under a sky blanketed with stars, the community gathered for a celebration, a festival to honor their new partnership and the sanctuary they had built together. The atmosphere was electric, filled with laughter and song as animals and humans alike came together to celebrate their achievements. Lyra stood at the center, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Tonight, we celebrate not only our sanctuary but also the connections we've forged," she began, her voice carrying through the crowd. "We are proof that when we work together, we can overcome challenges and create a brighter future for all." The raccoon chimed in, "And let's not forget the importance of understanding each other. We're stronger together." As the night continued, stories were shared, dances were performed, and bonds were strengthened. Lyra felt a deep sense of fulfillment as she watched her friends embrace the joy of community, their spirits soaring higher than ever. In the months that followed, the sanctuary thrived. The humans and animals worked hand in hand, transforming the area into a model of coexistence. Educational programs were developed, and local schools began to incorporate wildlife conservation into their curricula. Lyra often led guided tours for the humans, showing them the beauty of the land and the creatures that called it home. They established a mutual respect that transformed the once fractured relationship between humans and wildlife. But even as they celebrated their victories, Lyra remained vigilant. She knew the world outside the sanctuary still held dangers. However, with their new alliance, they were more equipped than ever to face whatever challenges lay ahead. One day, while leading a group of children from the local school on a nature walk, Lyra spotted the larger predator watching from a distance. She waved, and the predator approached, its expression calm yet watchful. "Lyra," it said, its voice a low rumble, "the humans have been spreading the word about our sanctuary. More creatures are coming to join us." Lyra's heart raced with excitement. "That's wonderful. We'll need to prepare for more arrivals. Our community is growing stronger by the day." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the sanctuary, Lyra reflected on their journey. They had faced fear and uncertainty, but had emerged united, stronger than ever. She felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the friendships they had forged and the new life they had built together. Standing at the edge of their sanctuary, she took a moment to absorb the beauty around her, the laughter of friends, the rustling leaves, the gentle breeze that whispered promises of a brighter future. Together, they had transformed the deadly food chain that once dictated their lives into a vibrant community where cooperation and understanding reigned. They had created a haven where all creatures could thrive, a sanctuary built on the foundations of trust and respect. As night fell, Lyra looked up at the stars, a smile spreading across her face. They had overcome the darkness and emerged into a new dawn, one filled with hope, possibility, and a promise of a better tomorrow. And she knew in her heart that as long as they stood together, there was nothing they couldn't achieve. The end.